Events unfolded in the immediate vicinity of the school, where the bell was already ringing to mark the start of the lesson. A group of girls were heading towards the school, noticing a guy named Wang from Hongtian, and this youth, despite his last academic performance every year, had rich parents, which, in their opinion, was the only reason for his success. Hearing what was said, Wang only smiled, knowing that these girls were talking nonsense, and after all, he ranked first in mathematics every year. Suddenly he remembered that his father had promised him lunch today, but it was nowhere to be found. A call to his father did not find a response, and Van could not understand why his father did not answer the phone. It turned out that it was not his father who answered the phone. Wei Fan was detained on suspicion of corruption, removed from his post as director, and an investigation was launched. This turn of events frightened the guy, because he could not understand how it all happened. The frightened guy wanted to find out from the stranger what happened, but he simply passed out. In this situation, the guy immediately called a taxi, since he urgently needed to get to the Tianqi Peninsula. Luckily, the taxi driver quickly picked him up. After getting into the car, Wang suddenly realized that he had no cash at all. An irritated taxi driver noticed that his passenger was nervous and asked if he had money for a taxi ride. Not knowing what to say, Wang replied that he had no cash, but his family had hundreds of billions of dollars. The taxi driver did not like this answer, and he asked if it was true. As confirmation, Wang handed over a black and gold credit card with more than $10 million. However, after using the card in the terminal, it turned out that it was blocked. An angry taxi driver accused the guy of breaking the law. Frightened, Wang shouted that he was really a millionaire and could not understand how this happened. The taxi driver realized that the guy might be pretending to be rich and started threatening him by punching him in the face. After some time, the angry taxi driver realized that the young man was actually not as rich as he seemed. Sometime later, events unfolded in the Van's luxurious villa. Frustrated, Van continued to walk towards the house when suddenly the door opened. The mother, leaving the estate, immediately announced that Fan Wang's father was detained on charges of corruption, all assets and accounts were frozen, and only this house remained for her and Wei Chun. This shocked the hero even more, who could not imagine how to live further. It turned out that the cunning woman had already filed for divorce, and now Fan Wang found himself deprived of everything. The impudent Wei Chun also mocked the guy, claiming that he didn't even have the right to enter this house. At that moment, someone began to leave the house, asking who was making such a fuss. This person was Shang Qian, Wei Chun's father, who wanted to know who was standing in front of him. Together, they insulted the main character, considering him his father's serf. Not wanting to listen any further, Van exclaimed that everything they had was thanks to his father. Continuing to mock him, Wei Chun hit him and believed that everything was a lie. It turned out that Fan Wang was considered worthless, which is why they were able to take the property. Wei Chun argued that wealth does not make a better hero. The guy noted that his father treated Wei Chun well, but he did not respond with gratitude. It turned out that it was Wei Chun who was behind the fact that the hero's father ended up in prison. Wei Chun's father smirked and said that he shouldn't talk to the idiot and offered him a lesson. Wei Chun took out a knife, expressing his intention to kill Fan Wang. The villain struck, taking the guy's life. The hero trembling on the ground became an object of confusion for the villains, who did not know how to get rid of the body. In another world, the hero understood that he would soon meet his mother, holding a pendant with her photograph in his hands, although he did not want to die at all. Suddenly, at the same moment, a strange golden glow appeared. At that moment, a hologram of a mysterious girl appeared, and Van immediately became interested in who she was. The girl begged for donations, claiming that you could get anything you wanted for a donation. The worried guy tried to figure out where he was, suggesting that it might be the afterlife, but he had a hard time understanding why he needed to spend money right away. It turned out that the girl is not a ghost from the afterlife, but is a powerful donation system. Wang, still confused, tried to figure out what the most powerful donation system was, and realized that he only needed to make a donation for it to fulfill his wishes. This was confirmed, and the system assured him of it. The smart guy immediately asked how much he needed to donate to go back a year. The system answered without hesitation that only 100 million were needed. A question about making a payment appeared on the screen, and one could only click yes or no. The amount of 100 million was extremely small for him, and he was looking forward to the opportunity to donate so that he could return to life. The joyful system realized that it had found a rich sponsor and immediately felt lucky when it met the rich gentleman. Raising her hand, the girl exclaimed about the beginning of the revival. It turned out that the hero had only 70 million in his account, and the amount was not enough for the operation, and he had to top up the account. With tears in its eyes, the system realized that it had met a poor man immediately after its appearance. Feeling awkward and blushing, Wang asked if he could pay on credit. The upset system could not understand who set such rules, but still agreed to the loan with interest. Van was confident in his choice and assured the girl that there was no need to worry. His father had a lot of money and he needed to return to a normal life as soon as possible. Having cast a magic spell, the girl informed her master that the interest rate on the loan was 20%. Soon after, the system provided a loan to the guy, and he realized that the interest rates were incredibly high, even higher than his father's. Opening his eyes slightly, our hero found several girls in front of him, whose joy at his awakening was obvious. Having awakened in an unknown place, the guy tried to figure out where he was and who these girls were around him. One of the ladies, who seemed quite courageous, hugged Van, saying that his awakening had frightened her. After some time, the guy finally realized that he had been reborn, and it was his coming-of-age party. Pushing the strange girl aside, Van felt the joy of living. The girl with the beard burst into tears, asking the hero why he did this to her, and whether he really stopped loving. Surprised by his taste, the guy could not understand how he had met such a girl before. With a malicious laugh, he finally realized that his life had changed, and it was really cool. In his previous life, today was the day in which Wei Chung crashed the Lamborghini his father gave him, causing an accident and almost dying. Then my father had to make Wei Chun the heir of the company. This time the guy has a donation system, and Wei Chun will have to answer for his inactions. Realizing his strength, the guy asked his little sister how close she was to him. The donation system responded instantly, notifying the guy of its presence. Fortunately, Fan Wang did not exaggerate his wealth in front of the girl. He was indeed very wealthy. Extending her hand, the girl asked her brother to clear his debt and pay it immediately. Suddenly he remembered that he was in a deep hole of debt, and he needed to hurry up to repay the debt. If he remembered correctly, his father bought him several gifts worth tens of millions, and first he needed to pay off the donation. Turning to the strange girl, he wanted to find out where his father kept all the gifts. Delighted by this development of events, the strange girl immediately announced that they were in an underground garage. Van clearly did not like this behavior, and he forcefully hit the impudent guy who was wearing a dress, ordering him not to come any closer. The man clearly liked this, because Fan Wang showed himself to be a cruel person, and he asked to hit him several more times. Imbued with even greater anger, the guy decided to leave, realizing that it was useless to continue the conversation. In this situation, the hero realized that this man was ruining his reputation, and when he returned, he needed to be punished for such actions. Now this was really disgusting for the guy, and he liked girls better. Entering the room with gifts, he discovered many things that had been given to him for his birthday. Rejoicing even more, the guy asked the system if this would be enough to pay off the debt. Apparently, this should have been enough, but the girl also indicated that only interest remained to be paid. Hearing this answer, Van thought that his little sister was worse than any huckster, and began to donate to her a Patek Philippe watch for 550,000, an Armani bracelet for 70,000, and a gold bracelet with a stone for 120,000. Suddenly he remembered that nearby there was a very expensive car that could also be donated. This red Lamborghini drove the hero into trouble in his previous life when an accident occurred and he ended up in the hospital. The unknown person in the mask immediately noticed the guy and began to run away. This villain apparently had something in mind with the car and wanted to cause an accident. Looking at the criminal, the hero decided to find out who he really is. The criminal continued to run away, hoping that he would not be noticed. Realizing that he needed to act, Van grabbed the criminal and ordered him to stop. The villain also decided to act and threw an unknown fabric right in the face of the main character. Distracted by this, the guy was attacked by the criminal, who began to beat him in the face. From several precise blows, the hero fell to the floor, not expecting such aggression. The thief looked him in the eyes and declared that he was truly a worthless piece of trash. He swung his fist again. The unknown wanted to hit the hero, causing him even more harm. The blow came straight to the guy's face again, and the villain continued to claim that his father's money had absolutely no meaning, and he would beat him anyway. Having received several blows, the guy exclaimed that he was ready to exchange the car for wrestling skills. The system explained that the car had a serious brake failure, and its value instantly dropped to 1 million. Hearing this, the hero realized that, as expected, the car was already really broken. Running up to her, the guy shouted that he was ready to donate her because he needed a skill. The joyful girl gave the owner a choice of several items, such as an iron fist for 1 million or many illusions for 8 million. The dissatisfied guy shouted to the girl to quickly choose what he could use right now. The iron fist skill was chosen. Its price was exactly 1 million. The news was really great as now the hero can defend himself against his enemies. Having activated the Iron Fist skill, the guy's hand was immediately enveloped in bright red flames. Now the enemy must pay for his deeds before the mighty hands of Fan Wong, because he has become much stronger. Not expecting his opponent to become stronger, the villain shouted that Vaughn was just a stubborn scum and he could defeat him with one hand. But that didn't happen, and Van hit the villain right in the face with force, repaying him for all his sins. A starting skill like Iron Fist proved to be extremely powerful for ordinary people, as not many people had such fighting abilities. The villain who had fallen into the wall screamed in pain as he hit the stone surface. The unknown immediately realized that his opponent now knew how to fight. Wong determined that the unknown person was at least someone military and ordered him to quickly reveal who sent him. Having pulled out a knife, the villain immediately tried to throw it at the main character to take revenge. Fortunately, the villain missed and the knife got stuck in the wall, having previously caused considerable damage. While Van was distracted, the scoundrel decided to run away, shouting that they would meet again. After examining the knife closer, the guy learned that it was a throwing knife from Wei Chin's family from Qingzhou. And if he is not mistaken, then Wei Chin's father adopted him in Jingzhou, and this was significant information, since the enemy clearly underestimated the hero. Looking at his hand, the guy felt that his inner fighter was awakening, but he knew that only with the awakened blood of a warrior can he make weapons. After thinking for a moment, Vaughn approached Donati and said that this Iron Fist was unimpressive and he would like to see if it could be improved. The donation system explained that the Iron Fist has initial, medium, and high levels, with the high one costing 10 million, and Van now only has the initial, weakest. For a moment the guy even forgot that this girl was a real huckster. After thinking a little, the guy realized that he didn't want to call her little sister, and now he would call her Donati. Realizing that the girl didn't like it, he was only happy about it, and started calling her Donatia. Sometime later, Van returned to the party and his friends immediately noticed and were happy. Even the strange man in a woman's dress was glad that the hero came and offered to have fun together. Flushing even stronger, the guy ordered the strange man not to approach him and to disappear to hell. Watching the old man pretend to be a girl was disgusting to the core, and Vaughn felt disgusted. Wei Chen called the hero over to congratulate him on his birthday. Next to him stood an unknown girl who was having fun and rejoicing at the opportunity to attend the party. The lady ran up to Van, hugging him and saying that she was very glad to meet him. The girl's behavior irritated Wei Chen greatly, but he decided not to say anything. The smiling scoundrel prepared a gift for the hero and hoped that he would like it. The gift turned out to be a gold watch, and the hero realized that, despite all the falsehood of this guy, such an expensive watch could be sold on. After thanking the guest, Fan Wang suggested that Wei Chen give an old man in a woman's dress as a sign of gratitude. Refusing such a gift, the scoundrel declared that he liked the girl who was now with him better. In any case, the man in a woman's dress chose him as his target and literally fell in love at first sight. Grinning, the hero announced that he now wanted to show his guests magic tricks so that they could see their money disappear. Those present were intrigued and ready to see what the birthday boy was up to. Pointing to the new gift, the guy told everyone to keep an eye on it, as the moment of the trick had come. After touching the gift, he stated that in a few seconds it would disappear. At that time, the donation system indicated that this watch was worth 100,000. The trick was indeed a success, because as soon as Van touched the watch, it instantly disappeared. The spectators did not understand anything and wanted to know how this was possible and where exactly the clock had disappeared. Some people thought that he and Wei Chen were deceiving them, and this could not happen. Even the scoundrel could not understand what happened and where exactly these expensive watches disappeared. The passing moment of thought caused the boy to exclaim. It seemed that no one present trusted his unique abilities, and yet, he realized that at the moment everyone would succumb to his cunning trick. One of those present picked up his luxurious watch and invited the guy to disappear with it. Another guest decisively offered his exclusive bracelet, which cost a considerable amount. Almost everyone started displaying their valuables, eager to see how magic happens and where objects disappear. Since all the guests were ready to give up their things so easily, Van decided to make them disappear by making a donation. Many decorations disappeared instantly and were nowhere to be found. The guests who came actually admired this unique skill, believing that no one else could repeat this. Turning to his opponent, the guy asked if Wei Chen thought that was impressive. The arrogant scoundrel only smiled, without betraying his criminal intentions. He confirmed that it was really impressive. Taking the opportunity, Fan Wang offered to compete with Wei Chen, arguing that if he was so smart, he should give him a sports car, and then the impudent one said that for this he needed to demonstrate something more exciting. Addressing the crowd, the hero asked if they believed that he was capable of making an entire car disappear. Guests at the event shouted that this was impossible, and even began to bet money that this was impossible due to the size of the car. Wei Chen, meanwhile, understood that this guy couldn't be that smart, and if he could handle it, then the villain was ready to give him his car. Sometime later, events unfolded in an underground garage, where many expensive cars were parked. Now there were many witnesses in the garage. Wei Chen could no longer go back on his words, and with these cars, he could earn a lot. Starting to pray, Fan Wang turned to the King of Heaven, Earth, and all living things to help him, and to Donata to evaporate all the machines. In his thoughts, he also asked Donata to consider these cars as a donation. Thus, many expensive cars costing several million disappeared instantly. Those present could not understand how it happened, as if it were some kind of magic. The hero was literally admired, calling him a real wizard. The only one who was unhappy was Wei Chen, who couldn't understand how so many machines could suddenly disappear. The cunning young man announced to Wei Chen that there were no more cars, and now he would have to pay money for the loss. It turned out that his rival had already transferred 50 million to the account and announced that he had to leave because his father had called him to the company. This incident infuriated Fan Wang, as he realized that in his previous life the company went bankrupt due to his interference, and this time Chen would not succeed. Suddenly the guy called Chen and asked him to wait. Feeling angry, Wei Chen knew that this guy was not going to let him go. Events unfolded in the Hongtian company. In fact, Wei Chen needed to sign the contract, so he had to go urgently. The hero did not interfere with him. He simply said that he had a lot of debts and he was going to ask his father to give him money. Sometime later, events unfolded in the director's office, where the father asked his son if he liked the gift, and Van replied that he really liked the gift and he just came to see his father. An elderly man named Wang Wei immediately thought that the little scoundrel needed money again. It was clear from the sly expression on his face that the guy only needed money. Suddenly, the fire alarm went off and could be heard throughout the building. At first, the guy didn't understand what the sound was, but then he realized it was a fire alarm. Turning to Donata, he decided to find out if the system had anti-theft equipment. Fortunately, a universal detector was available, designed to detect listening devices at a distance of 100 m, and its price was 1 million. There was also a microdetector designed to detect listening devices at a distance of 10 m, and its price was 100,000. In a few seconds, the guy was able to easily purchase a microdetector and save on it. The son immediately showed his father that he needed to be quieter. Taking his mobile phone, he sent a message to his father, claiming that many listening devices had been found in his office and someone was spying on him, and Wang also asked if these devices needed to be removed. Wang Wei responded to his son by refusing to remove the listening devices and claiming that he could use them to mislead. After reassuring his father that everything was fine, Vaughn began to discuss his financial difficulties as of late. Wang also wanted to give his father listening devices so that he would be more careful. Wei was grateful to his son, realizing that these devices were expensive. They then decided to act out a skit, and the father asked his son how much money he needed. The smart guy replied that he was only asking for 10 million. Wei Chen listened to their conversation, realizing that 10 million was a large amount. Fan Wang decided to show his father what he had learned in a short period of time. The elderly man was proud of his son, seeing that he had awakened the spirit of a fighter within himself. The last time, the father gave his son money and asked him to go to school to pay off his student debts, and Wang Wei realized that now his son was an adult and did not worry that he would waste the money. Having accepted the money, the young man said goodbye to his father and promised that he would not disappoint him again. A few minutes later, events unfolded in the Hongtian Company Hall. The arrogant guy approached Fan Wang and asked if he was really asking for money again. The main character did not see anything wrong with this, realizing that it was normal for a son to ask his father for money. The scoundrel insisted that money is not given to the father just like that, and this must be understood. Angry at Wei Chen, Wang thought that his father was not only earning this money for him. A few hours later, events unfolded at Fengling School, and classmates discussed how Fan Wang arrived by taxi, and his brand new sports car disappeared somewhere. Everyone who saw this thought that the rich son had run out of money. Even his friends began to mock the fact that he arrived in a taxi and not in his expensive sports car. Noticing him, one of the friends hurriedly ran up to Van, having something important to communicate. A concerned comrade told Wang that the head of the educational department, Lu Tian, was waiting for him and, apparently, was going to report something unpleasant. The self-confident guy only claimed that there was nothing to be afraid of, because now he himself could get out of any situation and no longer felt afraid of anyone. Arriving at the school, Wang entered the classroom office, where representatives of the administration were already waiting for him. The director, speaking on the phone, said that according to the school rules, if Wang does not pass the exam, he will be expelled, and then he will not be able to become the heir of the Hongtian Company. Van heard this and, out of politeness, knocked on the director's door, asking if he had called him. The irritated man shouted that Fan Wang must have felt ashamed for appearing in front of such a respected person in the middle of the day. In any case, the guy replied that he had no shame and was leaving. Slamming the table, the angry director announced that if Wang did not pass the exam this month, he would be expelled. Turning away, the student simply thanked the director for the reminder and headed for the exit. The frightened friend still wanted to know why he was called. The hero explained that there was nothing wrong, and the director simply warned that he could be expelled if he did not pass the exam. The faithful comrade shouted to his brother that no matter what school he went to, he would always go with him. Van calmed him down and hugged him, assuring him that he would not be expelled. After all the lessons ended, events unfolded in the dormitory. His roommate suggested to his brother that he could help him meet girls and asked him to teach him. Realizing that these were not tricks, but the deity of donation, the hero agreed to teach his comrade. Wang took out poker cards and said that it was better to practice himself since he was tired, and after the exam he would teach him. When the hero lay down on the bed, he began to think that acquiring skills is not everything. It is also important to train their strength. Looking at the balance sheet, Wang was shocked that he had very little money left. Donatia immediately explained that the total amount was 800 million, of which 10 million was spent on the Iron Fist, another 1 million on the tracking system, and a debt of 500 million was deducted, leaving 352 million in the account. Sighing heavily, the guy turned around, thinking about how evil this Donatia could be. Donatia also reminded him that every 3 days 10% of the debt amount would be written off. This really angered the hero, and he shouted that Donatia was just a business, but she turned out to be a speculator, robber, and looter. In any case, it was necessary to prepare for the exam, which would happen soon. Events unfolded the next day, when Wang woke up his neighbor to find out if he had passed the exam. Waking up, the guy replied that he had passed the main exams, and he would help with mathematics. Realizing the complexity of the upcoming exams, the hero asked what other tests remained. The roommate said that the test of the month would include 3 practice projects and a strength test, a movement test, and a martial arts test. The strength test is the simplest. You need to hit a punching bag and reach 200 kilograms. The test for practicing movements is more difficult. You need to go through an obstacle course in 15 seconds. The martial arts test is even more difficult because you have to demonstrate all the fighting skills. Wang realized that all these tests were almost the same as last month. But the guy also realized that last time he was very embarrassed in the exams. With a smile on his face, he realized that this time he would definitely pass the exam. Donatia explained that there are 4 divisions of practice on the Gao continent, and strength, element, intelligence, and ancient weapons. Hearing this, the guy wondered which of these suited him best. The smart system replied that all areas of practice are suitable for money. Smirking, Van told the system that he would choose the coolest section of intelligence. After indicating the prices for the basics of the mind section, 100 million, the ancient weapons section, 60 million, the element section, 30 million, and the power section, 10 million, Donatia explained that the owner is too poor and does not have enough money. The surprised young man realized the difficulties of his existence and declared that in such a situation he would choose the path of strength. Donatia has already chosen all the skills for him and has begun to improve the initial upgrade for 25 million, the ghostly cloud for 80 million, and the step of 7 stars for 22 million. Realizing that he will now be completely left out, Van decides to make the exchange anyway. Immediately after the exchange was completed, only 10,000 remained in his account. With a wink to the guy, the donation system informed him that he could take out a loan to acquire even more skills. Then the guy remembered that after his birthday, contractor Feng Lin's shares rose significantly. It was decided to take out a loan of 50 million in order to purchase as many shares as possible. Donatia only welcomed this decision and easily approved the loan to the guy. Full of confidence, Wang exclaimed that he would buy Ling Feng's shares for the entire 50 million, and he would succeed. Sometime later, events unfolded on the student sports ground, where the school principal addressed the students. The man warned all the students that this month's exam would start right now. All the students were excited that the exams were finally starting, and they would do their best to pass them successfully. Only the main character was worried about this whole situation, and he wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Looking him straight in the eye, the director also reminded him that according to school rules, students who fail the exam 3 times face expulsion. Realizing that the director was talking about him, Wang became angry at such a hint and decided to really try to pass the exam. In a previous life, his father bribed the principal to avoid expulsion from school, but this time the guy was going to cope on his own. It is announced that all students need to take their seats because the exam is about to begin. The evil principal also warned the teachers not to help the students, and he would personally supervise them. The evil man already foresaw that he would soon expel Wang Fan, doubting his ability to pass the exam. Wei Chen was also present at this exam and was ready to take it. One of the teachers addressed the students, announcing that the first exam was a test of agility, and they had to overcome the maximum number of obstacles in 17 seconds, and the record of 6.31 seconds belonged to the talented student Qin Jia. The hero was already ready to start and shouted to the crowd so that everyone should open their eyes and see his skill. With a shrill whistle, the girl announced the start of the exam. Using his incredible agility, the hero launched forward with full strength to successfully overcome as many obstacles as possible. The speed was amazing, but 17 seconds passed quickly and the test was over. The director, looking at what was happening, could not believe his eyes, not understanding how this became possible. Even Fan Wan's class supervisor, Xianing Yu, was shocked by the outcome, which made her very angry. It turned out that Fan Wang successfully passed the exam, completing the entire obstacle course in 17 seconds. Everyone around him considered him lucky, claiming that he was just lucky and that he would definitely fail the next exam. The next task was to hit the punching bag. The previous record of 479 kilograms belonged to Qin Jia, and a new stage of the exam began. Using his new skill, Fan Wang successfully completed the test, reaching a result of 213 kilograms. Watching how the guy coped with the exam, the director again could not believe his eyes, because this student had not passed a single exam before. Although the hero's hand was very sore after the blow, he was ready to move on and take on the next challenge. The third task was a martial arts test, and standing against a fighting robot, the student had to not press a button for 10 seconds, and the countdown began. The combat robot instantly attacked the guy, using his strongest techniques and blows, but the hero deftly dodged them. The 10-second countdown ended and Fan Wang successfully passed the test again by pressing the button after 10 seconds. Watching this competition, Wei Chen and the director were extremely unhappy with this result, expecting failure. In any case, for the guy these competitions were nothing more than a warm-up, because he was capable of more. Even Xianing Yu admitted that Fan Wang has excellent control over his body, and his talent is not inferior to that of Qin Jia. The angry director suspected that the student was dragging something up and ordered him to come over to conduct an inspection. The smart guy immediately turned to the leader, asking if he doubted the quality of teaching of his teacher, Xianing. Such a tricky question confused the director, and he couldn't even think of what to answer. The curator also turned to the angry man and asked if he had any more questions for her student. While the curator and director were arguing on stage, the guy realized that the situation was really bad and it would be better to leave quickly. Then he headed to the school park to complete the exam as quickly as possible and avoid additional difficulties. The innocent guy knew that if Xianing Yu hadn't exposed him, he would have to pay. Suddenly, the supervisor approached her student to find out what had happened and find out what was wrong. The stunned guy assumed that Xianing Yu could read minds and detect lies, so he called Donatia to help him. Blinking at the main character, the girl said that she needed a donation of 100 million and she would help him. And, despite internal hesitations, the guy agreed with difficulty, gritting his teeth. In response, the donation system provided him with a capsule for restoring the nervous system, which restores it to 100%. Donatia suggested using this capsule to restore Xianing Yu's periods, which were disrupted due to mental trauma. The intelligent guy turned to his teacher, offering help in treating her hidden illness. Instantly, the teacher flushed with bewilderment, not understanding how the student found out about her problem. With concern, the guy explained that she had insomnia, absent-mindedness, and menstrual irregularities. Thus, he handed her a magic vial that could solve all her problems. Leaving the scene, the guy shouted for her to drink the medicine from the bottle, promising an instant effect. Observing the student, the curator could not understand why he had previously failed to pass the exam, but now he managed it, as if he had been faking it before. Holding the strange vial in her hands, she also could not understand why he gave it as a gift. It turned out that Xianingyu has soul visualization, which allows her to hear and recognize any creature. Using her magical abilities, she recognized that the bottle contained a capsule for restoring the nervous system. So she decided to drink it to cure her hidden illness. After she drank the bottle, Xianingyu felt instant relief, happy that she was now healthy. The girl was truly surprised, because the disease did not go away for so long, and now she was defeated, and everything was fine. Suddenly the phone rang, and she decided to answer the call. It was her father, who was talking about making an appointment for her to see a doctor again due to a hidden illness, and Xianingyu explained that this was not necessary and she had already recovered. After some time, events developed in the Yuanlin company. The girl's father was interested in how she found a capsule to restore the nervous system. The embarrassed girl said that this gift was given to her by a student named Wang Wei, the son of their former competitor. At this time, the elderly man remembered that this guy was the son of their former rival. Meanwhile, the unsuspecting guy was sitting in the dorm studying something on his laptop. His friend expressed delight, saying that Wang was really talented in mathematics. The stocks in which he invested began to grow rapidly, providing a stable income. Raising his eyebrows, the wily guy turned to his friend and asked if he wanted to invest in stocks. The roommate instantly agreed, inviting his friend to take his card, since it contained more than 20 million, and he completely trusted his brother, Fan Wang. Laughing, the guy couldn't help but ask his friend why he gave away his bank card so easily and wasn't afraid to lose. For his friend, this was only a small loss, and Van would have to help him complete the F-level task. Van immediately decided to see what the task was, and as it turned out, it was necessary to find the shelter of the Eastern Star Group. Puckliash explained that it was a new secret organization that assigned him this task, and the Eastern Star Group provided loans at huge interest rates, which led to many ruined families. Distrustful of his friend's story, Van was surprised to not see his comrade perform similar tasks. It turned out that he performs these tasks in the name of the fight against evil and for the good of the people, as well as to improve his skills. This answer caused bewilderment, and the heroes decided that the guy was just showing off. Then the guy asked his friend to lend him a car for a couple of days, and the plump guy agreed, but only on the condition that Van would help him complete the task. A few hours later, events unfolded in the Chengxiang area, precisely in the chubby guy's car. Turning to Donata, the guy asked for help in finding the address of the brothel. The donation system immediately explained that providing key information is a paid service. Donatia also checked with Wang whether he needed to find Qinglong, the head of the Eastern Star Group, martial arts level Yi, and the main area of activity is the Chengxiang district. Wang realized that Qinglong was Wei Qin's cousin, who had manipulated him in a previous life, and asking his little sister for help, Wang learned that the price for searching within 1 kilometer was 10 million. The cost turned out to be impressive, but Wang decided to pay to find Qinglong. After payment, he realized that he would lose all his earnings from the shares, and Donatia turned out to be overly harsh. A minute later, the donation system reported that Qinglong was not found within 1 kilometer, and the guy needed to add more money. A second donation of 20 million was made, although this displeased Fan Wan. This additional donation helped, and Donatia successfully found the enemy. Pointing to one of the buildings, she said that the enemy was located there. The building was called the Hobby Club. Going inside, the friends found many villains playing cards. The brave guy turned to his friend, saying that it was necessary not just to look, but to act, and the chubby guy, however, preferred to avoid the conflict and quickly leave. Vaughn sprang into action, asking several men who was in charge and ordering them to bring him. Those present obviously didn't like this behavior, and they got angry with the guy. One of them shouted that the guy was in the wrong place and he had better leave. Realizing the complexity of the situation, the hero shouted that he should speak more respectfully, since Chung Long's brother had entrusted them with help. None of the bandits could believe that Chung Long had sent this young guy to help them. Without revealing his true position, the hero asked one of the bandits if he was in charge here. It turned out that Yuan Lian was Chung Long's deputy and wanted to find out who these guys were. Wang replied that he didn't care, but if they didn't bring brother Chung Long within 3 minutes, he would destroy everything here. Because of such words, the bandits laughed, claiming that the guys were clearly arrogant, they didn't even have mustaches, and they dreamed of defeating the gang. The determined guy asked Donatia to provide him with a signal jammer. Donatia announced that the cheapest plug costs 2 million and is valid for 200 meters, valid for 10 minutes. The hero, ready for action, decided that 10 minutes was enough for him and decided to pay. The donation system activated the plug without any problems. Wang even claimed that they had already been detected, and the signal was blocked if they hadn't noticed. The bandits looked at their phones and discovered that everyone had no signal. The phones were completely useless and there was no signal, meaning no one could make a call. The frightened bandits looked at their phones in surprise, not understanding what was happening. Watching them, the hero realized that the time had come to demonstrate his strength. Jumping onto the gaming table, Van ordered all the bandits to look at him and decided to donate all the money that was on the table. The bandits were shocked and frightened by such a display of force. Van, standing on the table, ordered Donata to take everything. The donation system didn't like this, but Wang assured that there would be even better things in the future. In any case, if he doesn't take this table now, it will be even more difficult for him in the future. The next moment, the table in front of the group of robbers disappeared, and indescribable horror seized them. Out of fear, the trembling robber guessed that Fan Wang possessed Ling Ling, a powerful magical artifact that is currently known, including the lines of space, time, darkness, and light. The frightened robber realized that in front of him was a person who owned the line of space, and it was better not to make a fuss. Very frightened, the robber begged the main character to sit down, because only now did he realize that this was really Cheng Long's friend. In response, the main character addressed the entire gang, emphasizing that they should remember his face and behave more respectfully next time. The deputy leader of the bandits invited the hero to come in and take what he needed. The contents of the room shocked Fan Wang, because he did not expect to see such things. Many types of weapons were found in the room, and Vaughn was delighted, anticipating the wealth that was now his. The smart guy turned to the robber, indicating that all this needed to be moved to where Brother Cheng Long indicated, and ordered Donata to get to work. The joyful donation system exclaimed, noting that there were over 100 million in this room. Wang understood that this would be retribution for Cheng Long for all his sins. Remaining in the room, the guy announced that he would donate the entire contents of this room to the system. The bandits really liked this turn, as they saw with their own eyes Fan Wang's supernatural abilities and were amazed by him. Suddenly, one of the robbers shouted that Brother Cheng Long had returned. Realizing the tragedy of the situation, Van knew it was time to leave this place. With each passing second, the head of the Eastern Star Group and Cheng Long was getting closer to the building and preparing to enter. Puffy was also deeply worried, realizing that this could be the end of them. His friend immediately started shouting that the guy should act more seriously. Since nothing terrible had actually happened yet, Chubby could follow Fan Wang to avoid trouble. Turning to Brother Cheng Long, the hero simply said that they were leaving, after which he headed for the exit. Seeing these guys, the bandit decided to ask them to wait. Cheng Long asked the two guys who they were. His deputy immediately announced that Brother Cheng Long had asked them to help move the goods. These words infuriated the gang leader, because he did not order anyone, and especially did not know these guys. Realizing that they had been deceived, the guys immediately ran to the exit, trying to avoid punishment. Many bandits followed them, ready to take revenge for their betrayal. Puffy was very worried, foreseeing that they might not escape Chunlong's wrath and would remain in this place forever. Using his magical abilities, Van assured the plump boy that they had nothing to worry about because he could handle the bandits. Succumbing to confidence, the comrades stopped, preparing to confront their pursuers. With superhuman skills, Fan Wong easily knocked out the gang leader with one powerful blow. Puckliash also did not want to stand aside, heading towards the bandits to finally complete the mission. Possessing all his combat skills, the chubby man began to destroy his enemies, ensuring his survival. After a few minutes of fighting, all the enemies were defeated, and the battle ended perfectly. Suddenly, someone threw a shuriken towards the protagonist's friend. The brave guy immediately covered his comrade, pushing him away to avoid being hit by throwing weapons. Luckily, the shuriken stuck into the tree and was clearly thrown using magical powers. It turned out that Cheng Long was still standing, ready to ask the impudent people how they dared to touch his things and attack his people. The experienced bandit realized that these guys had an awakening level of F, and it was unclear how they managed to penetrate his hideout. Cheng Long decided that these guys were too arrogant and considered themselves too brave. Taking advantage of his awakening level F, the gang leader was about to attack the guys who dared to attack his hideout. The excited chubby boy realized that this skill represented the pinnacle of Tier F. The enraged villain continued to attack Fan Wong and the plump boy, seeking revenge for all their deeds. Unfortunately, the friends still managed to dodge the powerful blow of the gang leader. Now Cheng Long wanted to see if the boys could avoid the next blow. The criminal, using his magical blows, hit his comrades with force, causing them unimaginable pain. Their bodies instantly flew several meters to the sides, such was the force of the impact. The angry bandit wanted to know who sent these two cowards here. The guy was literally suffocating after such a powerful blow, and the pain was unbearable. However, something had to be done, and he approached Donata, asking if she could help him in this situation. Donata did not like the hero's cry, and she asked him not to rush her, since she already knew everything. The girl chose for him all the skills that needed to be upgraded. The sparkling shield and life-saving tool will cost 88 million. Such prices seemed absurd, considering that the guy was on the verge of death, and such conditions were offered to him. The evil Lolia warned the guy that if the conditions were violated, he would no longer have the opportunity to buy anything from her. It was unpleasant for him, but if he missed 3 more hits, he would die, and he agreed to these terms. Meanwhile, the chubby boy continued to fight, shouting to the villain that no one had the right to beat him. And he was going to prove to Cheng Long who the real master was by defeating him in battle. The villain did not like that the fat man was trying to defeat him, and if he was looking for death, Cheng Long was ready to help him with this. In a few seconds, 2 opponents would collide in a fight, and only one would emerge victorious. The determined chubby continued to advance, because he sought to protect his comrade and defeat the villain. There was an explosion of incredible power as 2 powerful rivals clashed in combat. Realizing that his comrade was in danger, Fanwell began to head towards him to provide assistance. Using a magical shield, the 2 brothers were protected from Cheng Long's attacks, and they managed to survive his powerful blow. Admiring his comrade, the plump one noted that he was truly magnificent. The fact that the 2 guys were opposing Cheng Long irritated him even more, and he resolutely wanted to punish them. Suddenly, the villain's hand was stopped by someone much stronger. It turned out that it was Fan Wong, who explained that Cheng Long was working for competitors, and it was no wonder that Brother Wei wanted to beat him. The battle-weary and agitated bandit tried to find out if Wei Chun had sent him to scout out their secret location. The hero, realizing that the bandit knew too much, shouted to the plump guy for help. Meanwhile, the chubby one was already running, shouting to his brother Fan that he must hold out, and that he himself was going to return with reinforcements. This act amazed the hero, showing him that his comrade does not value friendship. The villain was even more angry and shouted that his enemy's assistant had escaped, and now the battle would not be on equal terms. Fan Wang realized that this guy was difficult to defeat and decided to gradually wear down his strength to complete the battle. Using a magical shield, the hero intended to resist the villain's attacks, exhausting him and ending the confrontation that had begun. Using his shield, Fan Wang urged Cheng Long to perform his powerful strike again. Meanwhile, the chubby guy was running down the street, realizing that he had to find an assistant, otherwise Fan Wang's brother would be in danger. Suddenly, someone noticed that the student was running in horror from someone. It turned out to be Xianing Yu, who was riding her scooter, and instantly realized that the students were in trouble. Unfortunately, she lost control and collided directly with the guy. Having fallen to the ground, the girl hit the asphalt hard, as she lost her balance from the scooter. After looking closely, Xianing Yu recognized her student Xinghe, who seemed to be running away from someone in terror. The alarmed guy shouted that Fan Wang was in danger, and it was necessary to come to his aid as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the battle continued, and the enemy was already extremely exhausted. Cheng Long viewed his opponent as a masochist because he had exhausted him, but was still on his feet and ready to continue the battle. The undaunted guy insisted on continuing the battle, realizing that this was the only way he could win. With a snap of his fingers, Fan Wang asked Donatia to provide an ointment to restore his strength. The donation system immediately provided the ointment, adding that for 500,000, he would immediately become a real man. Without hesitation, Fan Wang quickly paid 500,000 for the ointment and took it to restore his strength. Now he was ready for a new round of battle and intended to show his enemy what it meant to be a real man. The battle continued, and the main character attacked with renewed vigor, as if he had never fought before. This greatly surprised the scoundrel, who did not expect the enemy to recover so quickly. With maximum force, the guy hit Cheng Long straight in the face, trying to end the battle and finally win the fight. Using a multi-strike technique, Fan Wang began to attack all parts of the enemy's body, knowing that he was already exhausted and almost defeated. The enemy was also very slow, which gave the main character the opportunity to win. From a strong blow, the villain was driven into the wall, destroying part of the building with his body. The villain continued to watch his enemy and noticed that he drank some kind of potion. Seeing this, Cheng Long decided to reward Fan Wang for such a fight. Using the remnants of his power, Cheng Long released all the energy and began to transform into his new form. Now the main character's enemy has turned into a ferocious creature, ready to attack at any moment. Things were really bad for the guy, and he realized that the enemy had regained his strength. In response, the hero activated his sparkling shield, although it was seriously damaged, and yet the automatic deflection of the blow absorbed 80% of his power. Fortunately, even the remaining percentage of power was enough to defeat the opponent. The villain's hand suddenly began to hurt, and the force of the blow was reflected directly into it. The bandit couldn't figure out how this happened, and the dragon's flash couldn't penetrate his shield, and Cheng Long was intrigued as to where such an opponent came from. Despite his intense rage, the persistent hero only shouted at the villain, ordering him to be silent. The next blow was aimed directly at the enemy's face. The goal was final victory. Thus, the enemy was defeated with one powerful blow that hit him in the face. Fan Wang realized that his opponent could not defeat him, and he answered him by pointing out the interest, after which he asked Donatia to repay his debt. Looking at his opponent, the guy noticed only a few bank cards and a pink flash drive in his pocket. It immediately became clear what secret was kept there, and it seemed to be Cheng Long's treasure. In any case, the guy decided to take it with him to see what was hidden there. Recovering from the fight, the hero turned to Donata to find out how much they earned from this battle. The donation system did not approve of what it saw, since this bandit's bank cards only had 800,000. This seemed strange to Fan Wang, considering that this bandit seemed to be very rich, and yet, he was also curious to know how the chubby guy was doing. Meanwhile, Xianing Yu and Xing ran to the main character to offer help and save him. When he heard a voice from behind, the guy immediately turned around. The teacher was amazed at what she saw, not understanding how an ordinary student could defeat a person at the peak of level E. After a while, the entire Chengxiang area was locked down, and the entire perimeter was fenced off with yellow tape. All the criminals were arrested and had to be tried for their crimes. Even Xianingyu admired Fanwan for being able to complete the E-level task, while the chubby guy thought it was an F level the whole time. Suddenly, the hero noticed that the teacher had high ambitions, which explained the excellent success of her students. Quite unexpectedly, Xianingya tightly squeezed the guy's hand and offered to stay alone to discuss his progress, and twitching in pain, the guy asked her to stop, promising not to bother her anymore. Thus, the teacher realized that Fan Wang did not need to go to the hospital, and it was better to return to school to turn in his assignments. The guy agreed without hesitation and headed to class. Luckily, they had a chubby car that they could use to get there quickly. During the car ride, the chubby guy asked Fan Wan why he was silent, and the hero at that time thought that the sparkling shield was wonderful, but, unfortunately, its use was limited. It turned out that the shares also reached their peak, and the guy decided to give his friend 30 million, warning him not to complain about the small amount. However, after checking the balance on his smartphone, the guy discovered that he had no money in his account. It was all the fault of Donati, who appropriated all the money to pay off her debt. The irritated guy wanted to know how much he still had to pay, and when he would finally get rid of the debt. The alarm donation system instantly began to calculate exactly how much its owner owed, and it turned out that the amount was exactly 160 billion. The guy, not understanding the situation, was furious, not understanding how such an even number was possible, and as it turned out, Donatia thought that she had helped the guy a lot and decided to take some money for herself. The system began to cry, but Van took pity, saying that in this case there was no point in crying, because it won anyway. Sometime later, events developed at Fengling School, especially in the area of awards. Congratulating the guy on completing Task E+ and receiving the highest military rank, he was given 5 million and 2 bottles of mental strength solution. The students were perplexed, since the E+ task is usually only given to teachers, and this requires 9 years of training. Feeling awkward, Fan Wang smiled at everyone in gratitude after receiving the award. Wei Chen saw all this and believed that the guy was just showing off, not realizing that he knew about Xie's help. The sworn enemy nevertheless decided to call the director and was going to record a video of a teacher seducing a student with the participation of Xianingyu and Fan Wang, although in fact he wanted to plan everything. The Proud Boys discussed after the lesson how they managed to defeat such a strong opponent, not without the help of magic, and after the lessons they set off to their big dream. The hero was truly surprised by the chubby boy's offer, not understanding where he got such an appetite. Puffy shared rumors that several girls from Sichuan came to the Fengling Hotel, who are not only beautiful, but also talented. Finally, Fan Wan was persuaded, and together they set off in search of adventure. Suddenly, the smart guy's attention was attracted by music coming from afar. Xinghe immediately noticed that a mysterious beauty was dancing nearby. It turned out to be a girl who instantly attracted the attention of the guys with her dance. This girl turned out to be blogger Lin Miao, who listens to rather strange music. Despite the stupid music, Fan Wan and Xinghe were captivated by this girl at first sight. The guy decided to meet Lin Miao and show the plump guy how to do it. Coming closer, the hero said that he was a big fan of her streams and never missed a single one. The girl was surprised by such a confession, and she was going to give her fans something special, suspecting that the guy himself had fallen for her hook. Ling Miao asked the hero to extend his hand for a gift. Without thinking, Fan Wan extended his hand to find out what awaited him. Ling Miao extended her hand in response, declaring that the gift was herself. Such a proposal shocked Vanya, because he did not expect the girl to be so frivolous. Unable to bear such ease of behavior, Fan Wan said that he was not interested, since he was not the one who would start a relationship with the first girl he met. This answer greatly offended Ling Miao, who could not understand how anyone could refuse her. The angry girl shouted at the guy to come back and apologize to her. With a proud look, the hero turned away to respond to the girl's rudeness, declaring that he no longer wanted to communicate with her, since he and his friend were going to the big sword. This answer only angered the streamer even more, and she could not understand why the guy chose his friend, as if there was something wrong with her face or figure. In this situation, her ineffective techniques were useless, since Fan Wong could not wait for the foot massage from the Sichuan girls. Initially, the streamer planned to steal it, but now she has changed her mind. Looking at the guy, she used the charm technique, a powerful spiritual method that can temporarily deprive the average person of reason and bring him under control. Sobbing with passion, the guy lost control of himself, not realizing his actions. He was deeply in love and wanted Ling Miao to literally kidnap him. Sometime later, events continued at the Fengling Hotel, particularly in one of the rooms. At this time, Ling Miao was taking a shower, preparing for a pleasant evening with the hero. The guy in love waited patiently for the girl to get out of the shower. The streamer was dressed up like a cat and asked the guy she brought if he missed her. In fact, her goal was to punish him, and she was going to start it. Lost in feelings, the guy only wanted Ling Miao to love him, calling her queen. The cunning girl wanted to close his eyes in order to reduce his vigilance and make it impossible to resist. Fan Wong's eyes were completely closed, and now he could not see anything. As it turned out, Ling Miao planned to blackmail the hero by photographing him in unflattering poses. She then sent a message to Xianing with the address of the Fengling Hotel, room number, and ordered him to come alone without contacting the police, otherwise the consequences for the guy would be dire. Seeing this, the teacher realized that it was a trap and Fan Wong was being used for this purpose. Realizing that the situation was difficult for the guy, the girl immediately began preparing for the trip to save the student. The villain continued to beat the main character and asked if he liked what she was doing. Donatya looked at all this, realizing that the girl was truly a villain. Fortunately, the caring donation system decided that for the sake of money it would help him again, dispelling the charm. Thus, awareness returned to Fan Wong instantly, and he was aware of what was happening. After the new blow, the guy felt enormous pain and could no longer endure it. No one had ever treated him so cruelly that they barely damaged his skin, and now the guy wanted to give her a chance so that Ling Miao would be more lenient towards him. Otherwise, he did not want to bear responsibility for the possible consequences. The embarrassed girl could not understand how this ordinary guy could overcome her charm. At the same time, she liked that the guy was rude to her, which made him handsome in her eyes, and his figure was excellent, and now there was no time for a love relationship. Fan Wong insisted that he was faking all these moments, and such low-class tricks like hers did not work on him, and he realized that it was good that he had support from Donati. Meanwhile, the donation system gave the hero the maximum score for the art of showing character and asked if he now understood how cool she was. Indeed, the system was very powerful, and with it, Fan Wong felt selfless. The streamer was very angry at this expression, and she angrily shouted at the hero that no one had the right to call her abilities garbage. Because of this, the guy had to find out what a real heart winner means. Not wanting to listen to this, the hero resisted and powerfully hit her right in the face. From the first blow, Ling Miao felt great pain, not expecting that she would be beaten. Thus, the guy dealt with her without sparing her feelings, and he clearly was not experienced in dealing with girls. Fan Wong was aware all this time that he could treat this girl like this, and guys should not obey her at all, and he, like a true macho, was not going to listen to her orders. This argument silenced Ling Miao, and she did not know what to say in response. When the arguments ran out, she resolutely handed the main character his phone. There, he discovered a message for Xianingyu, urging the teacher to come to him. At this time, Xianingyu was almost there, and eager to help her student get out of the difficult situation. A few minutes later, the teacher was already standing at the door, ready to open it. Suddenly, the girl realized that the door was open. As soon as she entered the room, a strange pink gas surrounded her. This gas negatively affected her consciousness, and Xianingyu began to feel very dizzy. Sometime later, the teacher lost consciousness, and next to her there was a man who was constantly watching her. This villain saw the beauty and wanted to use her to reveal her true identity. The lady was under the influence of Huan's sleeping gas, and he was going to help her get rid of it. It turned out that it was the imperial businessman Song Luan, who wanted to mock the girl who came. He began to tear off her clothes, declaring that he would take revenge for the fact that his man was caught and for the loss of his weapon. He also sought to get his share directly from her body in order to abuse Xianingyu as much as possible. Suddenly, the girl's eyes began to glow with a bright light, as if she had awakened. Using sacred magic, she repelled her enemy, preventing him from further bullying. The criminal flew several tens of meters away in the blink of an eye, experiencing enormous pain from the effects of magic. The alarmed and frightened man immediately realized that Xianingyu was a disciple of the Huaning Temple. In horror, he tried to run away, shouting that it was better not to touch her, since she could even kill him right there. Under the influence of this blow, the teacher began to gradually come to her senses. Her magical abilities gradually dissipated, which provided her with the opportunity to survive in such a difficult situation. Suddenly, the hero approached the door behind which the teacher was and shouted that he would save her now. As soon as the guy entered the room, he saw Xianingyu lying unconscious on the bed. Getting even more angry, the guy began to think that these scoundrels had beaten the teacher. However, when he came to take a closer look at the girl, he realized that Xianingyu had completely regained consciousness. The teacher, not understanding anything, was extremely embarrassed, lying on the bed, and the student stood in front of her. She decisively decided to slap the scoundrel, believing that it was he who was involved in what happened. The teacher began to assume that the student wanted to be with her and organized all this. Xianingyu also showed Fanwan that he had been sending her suspicious messages, and it couldn't be just a coincidence. Continuing to make excuses, the guy said that even if he were 100 times braver than he is, he still wouldn't dare to do this, and if the teacher doesn't believe him, he's ready to prove it in another way. After stepping into another room, they noticed the scattered clothes on the bed, and Xianingyu was even more indignant, thinking that the student was bullying her. Hitting the hero in the face again, the teacher shouted that she would kill him for such actions. The angry guy ordered Donata to find that streamer so that she would punish both the streamer and the teacher. Even the donation system laughed at this, since he is now so poor that it is not worth even thinking about such services. Getting even more angry, the hero shouted that he should not be underestimated, since he still had a reward for the task. Donatia immediately remembered this and said that she forgot to deduct this amount, and this deduction would eliminate his excess money. The next stage in the development of the plot began the next day, after all the events that took place. The guy, developing his abilities, felt that his strength increased even more. A glance at his hand revealed a bright light, and he guessed that it might be the quintessence of his power. The phone suddenly rang, and it was probably an important call. However, the guy didn't particularly want to answer it, because he didn't understand who could be calling at such a time. Picking up the phone, Fanwang saw that it was a call from Xianingyu, and something serious had probably happened. Concerned, he immediately responded to find out what happened. The angry teacher shouted that the assignment mentor required him right now, and he needed to appear immediately. It turned out that the mentor on the hero's assignment was Liang Yujiang, and this assignment was not related to the Fengling Imperial School, and the purpose of the assignment was to train new people in the local subordinate organization. Arriving at the school, the hero immediately greeted the mentor and asked why he was called. The man ordered the guy to sit down and said that he had heard that Wang had defeated someone awakened at the peak of level E. A little embarrassed, the guy only said that he had simply loaded up on that shipment of weapons, and it seems that the man decided to use him and condemn him for it. The angry man immediately assumed that the hero had pocketed Chunglong's weapon for himself. Even more worried, the guy began to deny it, claiming that he would not dare to keep such things, and he destroyed all these weapons because the Eastern Star Group had done a lot of evil. This answer shocked the man even more, and he did not understand how this was possible. After explaining the situation, Fan Wang said that he had absorbed all the weapons using a void technique, and this technique was defective and could be absorbed, but could not be returned back. Listening to all this, Liang Yujiang was truly amazed, especially that the equipment turned out to be defective. Suddenly, the experienced fighter began to laugh, saying that this was indeed a great outcome, since the weapons were destroyed, and there would be fewer reports to write. The donation system also noted that the hero has upgraded his shamelessness skill. Smiling, the guy turned to Liang Yujiang, saying that it was an honor to help him. Then the man announced that a lot of unnecessary garbage had accumulated in the laboratory, and he asked for help. The surprised hero immediately realized that this old trickster had decided to test him. Upon entering the laboratory, they discovered that there was indeed a lot of waste crowding around. Salaga had to remove this garbage so that the laboratory would be clean and free of foreign objects. An irritated Donatia warned that even caressing one's eyes here is dangerous. One should be on guard against possible deception. Not understanding anything, the guy tried to find out if the old fox was going to deceive him. The unsure guy nevertheless decided to check with the minter whether he could start. There was a lot of various waste around that had been there for many years. The military man also warned the new guy, saying that this waste was very dangerous, and asked the guy if he could handle it. Fortunately, Donatia noticed that a lot of money had accumulated in this room. A little embarrassed, the guy saluted the warrior and noted that a real man could do anything. Liang Yujiang was ready to leave and asked to quickly get rid of this waste, promising that the hero would then receive a reward. The productive guy immediately began to inspect the surrounding waste and invited Donut to get to work. This was truly amazing, since the waste contained radioactive elements in large quantities, which made it possible to obtain a significant amount of energy for 50 million. A meteorite valued at 15 million was also spotted. Even the star vine was mistaken for trash, and its value reached 65 million. Realizing that this was truly a profitable deal, the hero began to call on the spirits of heaven and earth, assuring that everything that happened to him was destined for the best. Turning to the system, the guy wished that all the garbage surrounding him would instantly disappear. The magic turned out to be extremely powerful, and Liang Yujiang was even amazed at this development of events, not expecting this from an ordinary guy. The deal today brought Donut real satisfaction, and as a reward, he received the Xinyuan red pill, which would help in improving his skills, although there is a risk of fatigue due to the video side. Even the seasoned warrior admitted that Salaga was truly impressive, and it was impressive how he instantly mastered the task and absorbed everything. A little tired, the guy asked his mentor if there was any more trash he should process. This question caused the military man to laugh, since Salaga did have a lot of free space in his void technique, and the soldier was wondering how many things could be placed there. Succumbing to confusion, the guy explained that this was just an effect, and his technique was capable of absorbing many objects. Without further hesitation, Liang Yujiang invited Fan Wang to join his team. Refusing, the hero gratefully declined his mentor's offer and declared that he intended to follow his family's profession, preferring to remain where he was and await his fate. This answer did not suit Liang Yujian, and he ordered the ungrateful man to leave, despite the lucrative offer for the task. Sometime later, the warrior began to take something out of his pocket. The indicator he took out actually showed a 0 value, indicating that Wang was telling the truth. There were no signs of energy fluctuations indicating the use of spiritual energy, confirming his status as a spiritual warrior. A few minutes later, events developed outside the underground laboratory. The guy decided to ask Donati how much they earned on this task. The donation system reported that his total earnings were 299 million, and he was still owed 1,300 million. For the hero, money was not so important. What was more important was that he got a lot of pleasure. Suddenly, the villains approached, declaring that Fan Wang had offended their sister and should be punished. Seeing this, the hero thought that the streamer had not only returned, but also acquired additional courage. Imitating fear, the girl turned to her brother, asking him to pay attention to this evil guy. The brothers were furious with the hero, believing that he had actually hurt their sister. They expressed their anger, claiming that he was the reason their sister cried over a scumbag like him. Sighing heavily, Fanwang realized that all these accusations were absurd, and his sister simply made them up to set up his brothers against him. Having received shurikens, one of the villains expressed his intention to use them against the main character, seeking to avenge his sister. With great force, he threw several projectiles directly at the guy, wishing him nothing but death. Upon seeing these projectiles, Fanwang immediately realized that these were Tang Min's secret weapon. Escaping deftly, he dodged all the projectiles. The angry opponent could not understand how such an inexperienced person could evade so skillfully. Concerned, Donatia warned the guy to be careful and avoid blows. At first the hero did not feel any danger, but the attention of the system greatly surprised him. It turned out that it was a black crown strike, a weapon imbued with poison upon prolonged contact, and even close contact could cause poisoning. Understanding the danger of the situation, he realized that it was necessary to avoid close contact with the weapon, otherwise the consequences could be unpredictable. The donation system reminded him of remote injections and using the divine hand position. Sharing a cool ability, the hero remembered the hands of Buddha. Donatia decided to give the guy a free gift and handed over the database of military magic. The system began to download data, namely the fake version 0.1 of Buddha's hands. After a few seconds, the skill was successfully learned, and Fanwang was ready to fight again. Using his magical abilities, the guy resisted the villain who dared to attack him. This ability greatly shocked the enemy, who had no idea what else Fanwang possessed. Using just one technique, the guy easily defeated one of the streamer's brothers. Sighing heavily, he realized that the job was complete, and it was amazing that the fake version was so powerful. These words angered Donatia, because the real version costs 300 million, and he cannot afford it, even if this is the first fake made by her, so her generosity stands high. Indeed, but Fanwang, being smart, handsome, and successful, considers the use of fakes to be detrimental to his image. In anticipation of the upcoming battle, the guy knew that he would fairly repay the other scoundrels. Having started the fight, Wang instantly used the Buddha's hands against the second brother, rendering him unable to act. This ability turned out to be surprisingly effective, because just one touch of the Buddha's hands could destroy the enemy. The fight turned out to be scary for the streamer, as she had no idea how strong the enemy was. Suddenly, everything around the guy seemed to start shaking, and his head began to spin. This technique was somewhat excessive and drained the guy's energy, but fortunately, the Xin Yuan pill had not yet dissolved and saved him. The system expressed concern, claiming that this is only version 0.1, and it seems that version 0.2 should be developed. It turned out that someone was filming what was happening on their phone and captured the fight. It was a scoundrel named Wei Chun who planned to inform the principal about the fight at school. Although Fanwang had awakened the spirit of a warrior, he was still considered trash. The determined streamer realized that she would not give up and decided to answer the challenge. Taking the microphone, she began to sing to pack a special punch. It was a lyrical attack and an attack on the spiritual forces of the 7-string microphone. The opponent's voice was really loud, and Fanwang realized this after the first attack. Realizing that he needed to act, he decided to shut her up, despite the loud shout. To her surprise, the opponent noticed that the guy was ignoring the sound waves. Because of this, she began to spin around the hero, expressing her desire to dance, and ordered him to move. The hero began to clap his hands as she danced beautifully, and his feelings were muted, which created immunity. The embarrassed streamer realized that the guy was immune, and it seemed like she was not destined to win. Continuing her accusations, the girl stated that she was the goddess of murder, descended from heaven to destroy him, and that she also had many other abilities. The girl even had a slam dunk ability in her arsenal, which she intended to use against her enemy. Fortunately, Fan Wang was very strong and was easily able to repel the attack of the impudent girl who dared to attack him. Having absorbed her attack, the guy pushed her away with force, making it impossible for her to continue the fight. Although Vaughn didn't want to harm the beautiful girl, he felt sorry that such a beautiful face could get hurt, and meanwhile, the streamer didn't understand how this could happen. Donatia decided to answer, saying that Fan Wang is now her master, and she is a goddess from space, and the streamer's techniques are of no value. Fan Wang added that Donati also has a wonderful figure, and he is happy to have chosen such a wonderful master. At this time, the streamer remembered memories from her childhood. The girl began to remember how she and her mother walked through a dense forest as a child. Her kind mother taught her daughter to be a good girl and talked about magical abilities. As a child, the girl dreamed of living happily with her mother. Patting her daughter on the head, the mother decided to tell her something. She said that she should remember that only a faithful, kind, honest, and brave person deserves her. And then the girl asked how she would know if a person had these qualities. Then my mother explained that if this person is immune to her abilities, then this is the right person. At that moment, the girl realized that perhaps this fool was a messenger of fate. Confused and with tears in her eyes, she began to run away from the battlefield because she could no longer continue the battle. Not understanding anything, the hero only watched her and thought about what happened. Sometime later, events developed in the hostel, and the chubby guy told his friend that they began to insult him on the forum. A video appeared on the forum in which Van was fighting, but the guy only liked it because it was easy for him to become famous, and next time he planned to hit his opponents again. The concerned friend began to worry about his comrade, warning that he could be expelled for such behavior. The self-confident guy was not worried at all and told the plump guy that he was tired and wanted to rest, inviting him to mind his own business. Wishing his friend a good rest, Xinghe began to leave so as not to disturb him. Taking out a pink flash drive, Fan Wang realized that it was better to consider such things alone. After all, some very secret information is probably stored on this flash drive. It turned out that the flash drive had a password that had to be entered within 30 seconds. Realizing that he couldn't do it on his own, he decided to ask Donati for help so she could unlock the flash drive. The system offered 5 million for hacking this flash drive. Without thinking twice, the hero decided to ask her to speed up the hacking process so that they could study secret information together. A few seconds later, the flash drive was hacked and the password was entered. In fact, there was some stupid card on the flash drive. Suddenly, the system detected a red zone on the map and invited the hero to take it with him. Annoyed, the guy asked the system to stop acting up, pointing out that the place was polluted and dangerous, and that he was not ready to just risk his life. Starting to cry, Donatia remembered that she had lived there for a long time. Although he did not want to go there, he still decided to help the girl because she gave him life. Sometime later, the guy finally found himself in the danger zone, but noticed warning signs about high danger. This raised serious concerns and he suggested returning. Going into danger, in his opinion, was not the best idea. This answer did not suit the girl, and she stated that he was right, and she needed an owner who was not afraid of death. Outraged, the guy said that he was just joking and his words should not be taken seriously. This was incomprehensible to the donation system, since obsessive thoughts about home could not be removed from her memory. Fan Wang was surprised by this turn of events because he now realized that Donatia was born here. He used to think that she was born on a developed planet, where she was fed by robots and could fly in cars. In fact, the girl was not sure that this was her home, but it was here that she died. This was enough to move on and explore the territory. The smart system also asked the hero to relax, explaining that she protected them from radioactive radiation, and if he finds what she needs, then Donatia will fulfill her obligations for free. This was really impressive, because such a team was reminiscent of cheaters who like to take risks. Suddenly, Donatia noticed that nearby there was a donated meteorite from the past, which fell into this crater. The guy was delighted, imagining that now they would get rich. Exploring the area further, the system smelled the dragon's tooth herb. The hero immediately noticed her and realized that today he was lucky, since he immediately found the treasure. However, this grass was special, and an unknown creature began to crawl out of it, which immediately attacked the guy. The concerned girl asked him not to touch the plant and avoid the creature's attacks. Thus, Fanwang realized that he was in a very unpleasant situation. The giant creature instantly began to attack him and chase him with its huge tail. The extraterrestrial creature was extremely angry that it was disturbed and woken up from a long hibernation. But the guy's courage knew no bounds, and gathering all his power into a fist, he decided to attack. Using a magical strike, he hit it with all his strength directly at the creature's tail, trying to disable it. Unfortunately, this blow was unsuccessful, since the creature's shell was extremely thick and sharp, which made the pain from the blow simply unbearable. The enemy of the main character turned out to be a shadow Scorpio, who crawled out right from under the plant growing on his head. This creature was simply gigantic in size, and this was the first time the guy had seen something like this. Using his superhuman agility, he began dodging the attacks of the extraterrestrial being in order to save his life. Angry, he also wanted to find out from the system what was happening in this strange place. Donatia explained that the Shadow Scorpion has combat power comparable to fighters at the E-peak level and good physical defense, and the only way to neutralize it is to use the blow of an alarmed swan and aim at the white point on its head, which is a weak point. Using all his strength, the guy used an alarmed swan strike aimed directly at the enemy's weak point. An explosion was heard from a blow of such power, and it seemed that the scorpion was seriously damaged. The helpless creature began to fall to the ground, showing no signs of life. Ultimately, the guy managed to pull out the plant growing on the head of the shadow scorpion. However, the power of the blow was not enough to completely neutralize the enemy, and the scorpion was only temporarily paralyzed. Deciding that there was not enough time for slowness, the hero decided to run away from this dangerous place. After running for a few minutes, Fanwang looked back to make sure that the shadow scorpion was not following him. Fortunately, the scorpion's vision was weak and he was unable to pursue the guy for a long distance, and Donatia congratulated the hero, noting that the dragon tooth herb was worth 50 million. Despite the congratulations, the hero was dissatisfied, since he risked his life, and the reward seemed to be only taken away from him, and moreover, he could not even eat this grass. At this time, Fanwang's enemies were slowly approaching the scene, tracking his movements. The locator showed where their enemy was, which helped them track him outside the city. Shang Chun thanked the streamer for the great idea, but admitted that now they could only wait and take no action. Events were ongoing at the safe zone camp, and the guards were ensuring security in this disaster-free zone in the Fengling Empire. Fanwang knew that he should head to the safe zone, but without a protective suit, he might be mistaken for a weirdo. Donatia provided the guy with a mask designed to avert his eyes, so that others would think he was wearing a protective suit. Having found the mask, Fanwang laughed, appreciating this unexpected alternative to a protective suit. The donation system asked the guy to put on a mask and follow her, since there were other necessary artifacts behind the protective bars. The hero was full of enthusiasm, realizing that with these artifacts wealth awaits him. Once in the safe zone, the guy discovered that there was no one there, despite his careful search. After inspecting the entire safe zone, it turned out that there was no security, and Donatia was worried about possible accidents. Just a few seconds later, Fanwang dug up a heavenly root worth about 5 million. He also found a lilac flower whose price was 8 million. Even in the camp it was possible to find valuable things, and the hero was already anticipating the riches that might await him. A few hours later, events unfolded at the exit from the safe zone. The guy didn't like the green rain, which soaked all his clothes, and Donatia asked him to be careful in this place. The fog was getting thicker, and the young man wanted to know how far they were from the right place. The system, not immediately understanding, optimized the route, and they moved forward. While optimizing the route, the system detected something unusual. As it turned out, one of the main character's acquaintances was beaten nearby, which was an amazing coincidence. At this time, someone was fighting with mutants, creatures mutated due to radioactive radiation. It turned out that it was Xianingyu who was wearing a protective suit and was fighting against many monsters. The fearless teacher did everything possible to defeat as many monsters as possible. Although the monsters were much larger and stronger, Xianingyu gave them a worthy rebuff and could destroy absolutely everyone. Her courage knew no bounds, and she continued to fight the many mutants who continued to surround her. Suddenly, one of the monsters managed to wound the teacher, which surprised her somewhat. Fan Wang watched all this time, realizing that Xianingyu looked graceful even in such a wild state. Overcoming severe pain, the girl thought about how to get out of this situation and defeat her opponents. The hero also realized that the teacher was in danger and decided to come to her aid. Then something that no one could have expected began, and Xianingyu noticed that her student began to help her. A brave guy hit the monster with a shovel to help his teacher survive. Competing with the giant monsters, Fan Wang continued his actions, defeating all the monsters that tried to harm the girl. The surprised teacher tried to understand who this guy was who saved her. However, Fan Wang was unwilling to reveal his identity and asked Donatia to provide him with strength for this battle. Using the magical skills he had learned, he easily bound all the monsters around him and began using magic against everyone at the same time. His vines could not hold these monsters for long, and so he asked the teacher to leave this place as soon as possible. The concerned girl took the guy by the hand, and they ran away from the scene of the collision at top speed. Sometime later, they found themselves in the green safe zone, where the mutants could not reach them. Looking down, Xianingyu noticed that she was holding a stranger's hand and became very embarrassed. Feeling very embarrassed, she timidly thanked her savior and was sincerely grateful to him. Fortunately, the guy had a way to get rid of the poison without leaving any scars, and she hoped that such a beautiful face would not have to deal with the consequences of infection. Confused even more, Xianingyu explained that she did not need this treatment since she had the blood serum and could not determine whether this guy was a friend or an enemy, but decided to have less contact with him. As it turned out, the serum did not protect against toxic fumes, and it was useless despite her efforts. Not knowing who this guy was, Xianingyu decided to find out why he helped her, and she couldn't read his mind and didn't know who he was after all. Smiling, the hero only said that he saved the beauty, and there was no need for other reasons, and if she wanted to thank him, she could marry him. At the same moment, the girl's attention was attracted by the earrings in the savior's ear. She then realized that her savior was Fan Wang, and it was awkward to flirt with the teacher in such a situation. This game became uninteresting for the guy, as the teacher quickly hyped him up. Having dropped her mask, the girl was finally convinced that this was her student in front of her, and was interested in finding out why he was here. Suddenly it turned out that Wei Chun and the streamer were watching what was happening, a game called The Hero Saves the Beauty. The indignant girl exclaimed that the time had come to separate the lovers. The hero laughed awkwardly, declaring that it seemed his destiny was to be an adventurer. Xianing did not like adventures at all, and she ordered the student to leave this place with her. The guy did not agree to such conditions, pointing out that he was not her student here, and she had no right to give orders, and she should also remember that it was he who saved her life. After these words, the guy immediately began to leave, but the girl was indifferent to him, because the safe zone remained unguarded, and she urgently needed to report to the assignment department. Suddenly, she felt someone approaching behind her. It turned out to be Wei Chun, who noticed that she was left alone. Their faces were hidden behind masks, and these scoundrels were planning to beat up Xianingya instead of taking revenge for Fan Wang's actions. The irritated girl wanted to know who they were and what they were doing here. While the hero heard that Xianingyu was in danger again, he urgently needed to come to her aid. Realizing her weakness, the teacher understood that in this state she would not be able to resist the attackers. The arrogant guy said that there was no need to use his magic, since the prey should not know the thoughts of the hunter. This is because the prey must think about how to avoid the hunter's attention. The enemy instantly used his magical abilities, causing an ice hurricane that rose into the sky. The hurricane quickly lifted the weakened girl into the air, and with every second her strength disappeared. A few seconds later, under the influence of such powerful magic, she lost consciousness. The attacker decided to take her away, and they were going to leave, who knows where. While the guy continued to walk, very tired, he knew that he was already close to his goal. The system immediately determined that a soul stone vein was located nearby. The hero really liked the strong aura of the goddess, who was very close. This really inspired the guy, because he understood that with the help of this vein they could get rich. Suddenly Dronzer explained that she had many differences, especially with the creatures surrounding her. A moment later, Fanwang noticed how many mutants came running to protect the vein. The enraged creatures were extremely angry and immediately began attacking the guy. Taking out the weapon from his backpack, Van instantly began to repel the attack of the crowd of mutants, trying to survive and win this battle. Many mutants approached the hero, not giving him a chance to fight off such a huge crowd. Realizing the complexity of the situation, Fanwang knew that he could not stand it for long, so he asked Dronzer to provide him with a collective ability to show these mutants who is boss. The angry goddess did not want to do this and ordered the impudent man to get out. Van immediately began to consider the girl a fraudster because she claimed that her cheats were unprecedented. But for now, he was very vulnerable because of the shields, and the goddess did not want these creatures to tear her apart along with him. This was a compelling argument, and the guy began to run away, wanting to find out what was happening with the vein, because he needed money. The mutants turned out to be not so useless, since the goddess allowed them to temporarily admire the vein. Laughing at this answer, the hero wanted to find out if the goddess had any smart thoughts on this matter. These mutants moved very consistently and harmoniously, and someone was probably controlling them, and it was he who needed to be attacked, Dronzer suggested. It turns out that mutants do not have their own minds, and someone controls them, like sorcerers or puppeteers. At this time, Wei Chen and the streamer returned with lost loot to one of the villains. The girl was still unconscious and powerless to resist. The main villain believed that this girl cannot move, but she represents the Guanyin Temple. But despite the power of the Guanyin Temple, Wei Chen wanted this girl to be made into a puppet. Sometime later, a huge vein was discovered, where many mutants mined useful resources. There really were a lot of mutants in this deposit, and they were like a team extracting minerals. The savvy guy immediately guessed that this was an ore mining site, and he did not expect to return here with these creatures after his escape. Sighing heavily, the goddess also realized that everything that was happening did not correspond to her plan. However, Dronzer wanted the guy to follow her plan and take his time. The main villain was also in the deposit and claimed that mutants were very efficient at mining ore. The goddess of the system immediately guessed that this man was a puppeteer. And since the hero knew his skills and weapons well, he should have prepared and finished him off with one instant blow. Luckily, the guy had a heavenly sound bow that shot silently and at high speed, ideal for shooting within a 500 m radius. The brave guy rushed to the attack, aiming straight at the leader's head to kill him with one shot. Suddenly, an arrow flew straight at the impudent man controlling many mutants. But a girl under the control of villains stood in her way. Instead of the main villain, she took the blow of the arrow on herself, thereby saving the main one. This turn of the battle greatly stunned the hero, because Dronzer advised him to shoot unnoticed, and it was difficult to dodge such a shot. The cunning girl, however, had a backup plan, and she was going to put it into action. Using Plan B, the hero shouted with full force at the crowd of idiots that he was here and dug graves for them. The mutants instantly reacted to such defiant behavior and wanted to punish the newcomer. A huge number of mutants rushed to attack, not paying attention to mining. Just as they began to climb up to get out of the mine, it collapsed, and many creatures fell from a great height to the ground. Watching this, the hero understood that these fools even fall for such primitive tricks. A few minutes later, Fan Wang again shouted at the impudent man that he had discovered the soul stones and was going to leave this place. This defiant behavior greatly angered the main villain, because he not only injured his subordinate Zhu Hua, but also boldly challenges, as if he was seeking his own death. Why did the criminal decide to use the seal to instantly summon his beauties? These puppets were charming girls, devoid of awareness and completely devoid of feelings. The cunning guy insisted that the bandit not open his hands, as he intended to communicate with him, and Fan Wang did not understand how these four beauties could raise their hands. The bandit replied that if these were the hero's last words, he could say them as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Van turned to Donata, saying that he would approach the sources of the soul, and she should prepare for the attack. In special cases, donations were collected without restrictions, and the system sought to receive even more donations. The enraged bandit saw that his stones instantly disappeared, and ordered his slaves to destroy the guy who dared to do this. Three girls immediately attacked the hero, leaving him not the slightest chance of winning this fight. One of the girls had a ranged attack technique, using several arrows to harm the main character. Luckily, using his supernatural agility, the guy easily dodged this attack. He then began to use his magical power abilities provided by Donatya. Using magic, the three opponents were instantly bound and could no longer move. Thanks to his inability to fight, Fan Wang had a much better chance of winning against the three girls who were unable to feel pain. However, it turned out that the girls' strength was much higher, and they gradually freed themselves from the shackles of magic. One of the girls actually managed to break out of magical captivity and began to move towards the main character. The opponent was already behind her and was using explosion magic to disorient her opponent. Such a magical ability greatly surprised Fan Wang, as it was a self-destructive technique. This was true, and one of the puppets was scattered in different directions due to self-destruction. A huge explosion occurred, visible many meters from the scene. The bandit, meanwhile, shouted to his charges to come closer to him. They also delivered the body of the main character, since the bandit wanted to see it and accept it as a trophy. However, the guy turned out to be alive, although he was in incredible pain, and despite the difficult situation, he had a chance to get out of it. Shaking with pain, he realized that they were in danger and almost died, and in desperation he called for Donatya, realizing that without her help it could be the end. The worried guy again turned to the donut system, asking not to scare it, since he could die at any minute. After a few seconds, the system was activated again, and an unknown girl answered him, claiming that she was here. This turn of events greatly surprised the hero, since he did not know who it was. The girl asked to be given the opportunity to introduce herself and said that she was Donati's cousin, who had come to replace her, and hoped for cooperation. Fan Wang could not understand why the substitution took place without his consent, but he could not refuse such a beautiful girl. The new Donatya did not understand the indignation, explaining that in order to save him, the past Donatya used all her energy to open the wormhole and temporarily fell asleep. This stunned the guy even more, because he could not understand how Donatya could fall asleep, having previously claimed that she had no equal. It turned out that the new girl was working part-time in the system with her, and the use of space-time techniques was prohibited by the system. Then the guy had a question about how he was resurrected if the use of space-time techniques was prohibited. The new Donatya refused to answer such stupid questions, handing the hero a first aid kit and telling him to find the necessary medicine himself, and she would go do her makeup. Fortunately, these medicines were divine, and Fan Wang was going to take them all. Using one of the divine pills, he realized that even when she was angry, her sister was still beautiful. With just one pill, The divine medicine took effect instantly, healing all the wounds. Suddenly, opponents were noticed, already very close and slowly approaching. The frightened guy again noticed that the fighting girls were attacking and looking for him. These walking bombs were just waiting to explode and couldn't get rid of the poor guy. Feeling great fear, the hero ran, shouting to his sister to save him. An abyss opened before the young man, and he had no choice but to jump over it. The system confirmed the permissibility of this jump and asked him not to feel fear, but to actively make the transition. Looking back, Fanwang realized that he had no other choice, and it was necessary to take decisive action. Gathering his strength, he accelerated to maximum speed to forcefully jump over the abyss. However, immediately after the jump, he realized that he had begun to fall into the abyss beyond the fifth, and realized that the system had betrayed him, and did not want to die, considering that he did not even have a girlfriend. Fortunately, the system instantly came to his aid, flying towards him to save him. She did this because she did not want him to die, and easily caught him over the abyss. Landing at the bottom of the chasm, an unidentified object with a strange entrance was discovered. The discovered place turned out to be truly mysterious, and Fanwang could not understand what it was. Sister Donati explained that this was exactly the place they were looking for. In fact, the hanging was a clever trick to divert attention. Everything around looked like a secret laboratory. Looking around, Fanwang saw a photo of his mother and was surprised that he found her here. Starting to cry, he really missed his mother, realizing that he had not seen her for a long time. The girl, not experiencing the same feelings, ordered him to gather his strength, not cry, and remove the diary from the box. The box contained records of research and disasters signed by Yi Ying. While the enemies were approaching, rejoicing that Fanwang had helped them find the right place, Donati instantly sensed that they were being followed, and there was a secret passage behind them that they had to quickly go through to get back to the school. The disappointed guy did not approve of this decision and wanted to understand why the system was not ready to get rid of the enemies and leave. Donata's system explained that if she didn't remove him, it would be a crime, and she had just taken responsibility, and she would be sorry if he died. After some time, they found themselves at the exit of the mysterious shelter, and Fanwang noticed that getting into this place was incredibly difficult, and there were still many undiscovered treasures in front of them. It was likely that if they had stayed there, it would have cost them an unpleasant event, since after using the space-time technique, wanderers from the void usually appeared. The astute guy immediately realized that his sister seemed to know his mother. It turned out that the girl had previously been his mother's companion, and she could not help but know her. But while events unfolded in the disaster zone laboratory, Wei Chen was furious because he could not find the necessary documents. It was clear to the streamer that the necessary documents had already been stolen, and their thieves managed to escape. At the same time, the girl did not understand why she was so happy that Fanwang was able to leave there. Suddenly, Wei Chen received a call saying that he had completed the mission to eliminate this scumbag. The alarmed guy immediately rushed to the exit, saying that they needed to leave this place as quickly as possible. At that time, events were developing in the Songlong camp, where Liang Yujiang and his team were already present. Frustrated, Xianing Yu apologized to the director for failing to complete the task. The angry man knew that this damn merchant had entered the safe zone, and it was a pity that he had escaped. The concerned teacher also warned that Fanwang had gone far into the depths, and it was very dangerous there. Liang Yujiang believed that he should not obey the school rules and let him solve his problems, although he also understood that this guy had a map of the area. The experienced general ordered Xianing to return to school and wait for further instructions, while the others continued their search in the disaster zone. The smart soldiers were ready to carry out any orders from Liang Yujiang. The pollution in the disaster area continued to spread, and something had to be done. This probably meant that he would have to temporarily return to his empire, the man thought. Xianing Yu felt very anxious as she continued to hope that Fanwang was okay and safe. Sometime later, events unfolded in the dormitory of Fengling School. Having burst into the room, the chubby man was amazed that Fan Wang had been absent from his room for so long. When the guy said that he was looking for a very exciting adventure, the friend asked the friend to be less self-confident, since disappearance could interfere with the successful completion of school. Understanding the complexity of the situation, Wang knew that the director wanted to put an obstacle in front of him. But this was not entirely true, and in a month the elections of faculties will begin, where the awakened ones, having reached peak level F, can choose one of 4 faculties in the faculty of strength, magic, intelligence, or ancient weapons. All these events meant that the hero needed to reach level F peak within a month. It is truly challenging and requires significant training resources to achieve the goal. Without worrying about anything, the guy only cared about the plump guy pulling these strange stones, since resources were not a problem for rich people. Such kindness made the friend very happy, since he knew that these stones were the keys to the soul. Brother Xing, he began to hug his friend, saying that he loved him very much. Fan Wang was surprised by this development of events, but still asked his friend to go train instead of hugging. In any case, if it weren't for Donatia, he would have been torn to pieces, and the hero needed to train more hard to increase his level. The next day continued to bring events, and Fan Wang focused on developing his abilities, aiming to reach new levels. Sensing the power, his eyes began to glow with a bright yellow light, signaling his level had been raised. This was a real breakthrough, and the time spent on upgrading 1 soul crystal and 10 soul stones was not in vain. Suddenly, the door to the room was knocked down and flew in an unknown direction. It turned out that Xianing Yu's teacher did it, and her incredible anger was obvious. The stunned guy was shocked by the teacher's behavior and could not understand what was happening. In fact, the girl was so annoyed because Wang didn't announce his return. The hero suddenly calmed down, realizing that these were just little things. After all, he did not know that he needed to report his return. The teacher, embarrassed and alarmed, was sincerely worried about his fate, fearing that he might not survive. Even classmates passing by the corridor heard that something was happening in one of the rooms, and someone was shouting loudly. Under the influence of intense anger, Xianing Yu expressed her rage and shouted at the guy to go to class as soon as possible. Wang, trembling at this behavior, warned that it was better not to repeat this again, and immediately headed to class. Sometime later, new events unfolded at school. The teacher announced that there was a month left before the selection of faculties, and those who had not reached a high level, F, needed to move up. Everyone in class joked cheerfully, saying that it seemed that only Fan Wang had not reached the F level. Aware of the complexities of existence, the hero understood that this was just a group of idiots ready to make noise, and no one knew that this morning he had already reached a certain level. Chubby even believed that it was not disgraceful at all, and he had not yet reached the F level either, so it was normal for Vaughn to rise up. The embarrassed guy told his partner that he should get up if it was important to him, because he had already reached a certain level. One of the Odnoklasniki also believed that this scum was afraid to admit that he had reached level F, which meant that he was a coward. This guy was Feng Wei, the son of the Feng family alliance, and he believed that the entire group knew that in the ranking, Fatty was second from bottom and Fan Wang was first. Other Odnoklasniki also thought that the main character was a true coward and was not capable of anything. As it turns out, Wei Chen stole the company in his previous life with the support of the Feng family. The chaos in the lesson made the teacher very angry, and she ordered everyone to shut up. It is enough for her to simply understand the situation, and nothing more, because in the end, only those who have reached peak F have the right to choose a faculty. In support of his friend, even the main character decided to get up from his seat. The angry teacher was about to send the failing students to extra classes while they were going to continue their regular lessons. The lessons, fortunately, were over, but Vanna was completely irritated by this behavior, despite the consolations of the plump boy. Suddenly, Feng Wei stopped him and asked him to discuss the issue of compensation. The hero was intrigued by this proposal as it turned out that the problem he was facing was not due to Vaughn at all. Fang Wei was actually seeking compensation for injuring his friend Wang Xiu. Hearing this, the guy couldn't even remember who Wang Xiu was, and the chubby guy reminded him that it was the red-haired guy who distinguished himself at that meeting. Without revealing his dissatisfaction, Ven noticed that this informal was too useless. These words angered Fang Wei even more, and he shouted to the guy that he had injured the man and would not get off without paying him 10 million in compensation. Once classmates, they should have agreed to lower the amount, since 10 million was too much, and Fan Wang also demanded compensation of 5 million for moral damages. Then the problem could be solved. The scoundrel did not like this answer at all, and he asked the hero if he was suffering from mental illness. Puffy added that Fan's brother was too kind to care about such trifles as his friend and should have been thanked. This made Fang Wei even more angry and couldn't believe what he was hearing. Taking advantage of his magical abilities, the scoundrel shouted that no one had the right to underestimate him, and now all his opponents would come to an end. Instantly, the opponent used a magical technique, summoning a water dragon, but Fan Wang was ready and used the Buddha's hand. Having repelled the scoundrel's attack, he easily avoided the blow and threw his opponent several meters away. The fight was successful, and Fan Wei wanted to know why Fan Wang was so strong without even reaching peak F. The scoundrel's henchmen were shocked by this turn of events because they did not expect their leader to be defeated. Supporting the main character, the plump guy warned that they should not interfere, otherwise they will also get their share. Hanging over the scoundrel, Fan Wang explained that he had gone too far, and now it was time to properly discuss the issue of compensation. Sometime later, Fang Wei condemned the hero for impudently stripping him of his clothes. But even such an influential family had few savings. They turned out to be quite weak, and the guy was going to transfer all the money to the card, although Van's shirt was worth a lot of money. At the moment, Sister Donati had to harvest the crops. The sister explained that this deal could put them in the red by 10 million, but she did not want to take the clothes. This behavior displeased the hero, and he explained that the shirt was branded and could bring in a considerable amount of money. The donation system explained that the guy did not agree to give up his shirt, so the donation was impossible. The guy was surprised again and realized that the new systems were soulless, and Donatia was much better, since she could break the rules, but that is why she was no longer functioning. Now Fang Wei hated the main character even more because he not only stole his money, but also tried to humiliate him by taking off his clothes. Suddenly, a magical blow followed, which almost reached Fan Wang, but fortunately, he managed to dodge. The impact was extremely powerful, creating a huge wormhole. Using a magical shield, Wang decided to defend against the attack in order to save his life from an unexpected blow. A few seconds later, another guy with gray hair appeared and also tried to attack. No one could determine who he was, since the mysterious young man did not initially introduce himself. It turned out that it was young Master Fang Tian, Fang Wei's brother, and the elder brother immediately understood why his younger brother decided to punish his opponents. The brave guy immediately asked if he also wanted to give him all the money. But this was clearly not the evil elder brother's plan. As his younger brother was beaten, his money was stolen, and his clothes were taken off, leading Fang Tian to believe that the rivals were seeking death. Without thinking, the new opponent used his strong wind magic ability. Under the influence of a strong wind, many boulders nearby began to rise into the air and fly in the direction of the wind. Fortunately, such a blow was insignificant compared to the Buddha's hand, which could repel any attack. Even a more powerful opponent was defeated with one blow. As soon as the defeated guy came to his senses, Fan Wang approached him and asked him to give up his phone. Chubby began to clap his friend's hands, because Fan Wang was here like a king, and the newcomer was a true rebel. Trembling with anger, Fang Tian overcame himself and handed over his phone to avoid the theft of money. Giving the phone to the guy, then only thanked him for his generosity. This made Xing He very happy, because it was not for nothing that they were considered siblings, and they were even ready to give money together. After receiving the phones, he began looking around to identify potential victims. After all, judging by the fact that 2 of them have already given him money, for the 5th one it is necessary to take money from all members of their family. Sister Donati explained that the 30 million would be used to pay off his debt, and the rest would be used for monthly restrictions, otherwise the system would change hands. The hero realized that if someone gives him money, it does not break the rules. This is true, and usually he can donate things that belong to him, or those that do not belong to anyone. Fan Wang still longed for his former freedom with money and believed that his little sister should learn from Donati, and if the rules were ignored, then the end would come for both of them, and the Guardians of the Void would come. The hero did not know about the existence of the Guardians of the Void and wanted to find out who they were. The system did not want to answer this question and shouted that he just needed to know and follow the rules. When leaving the scene, Fan Wang did not forget to remind his enemies to take more money with them next time. Sometime later, events continued at the training ground, with Vaughn attempting to train his friend to improve his level. Puffy asked him not to focus only on him and also train to avoid punishment from the teacher. This really irritated Xianingya, since she did not invite Fan Wang here to play around. Justifying himself, the guy explained that he was helping to mentor the chubby guy, and if he revealed his abilities, he would become the best in the group. This was a very bold statement considering his previous scores, because Wang was first from the end. Initiative was punishable, and Wang basically didn't care about grades, but Xianingyu understood that such overconfidence could ruin him, so the training continued. Without listening to the teacher, the hero thought that only idiots would listen to her opinion. When suddenly the teacher exclaimed that she would lower her level to his in order to practice together. Seeing this, the plump guy was surprised and realized that his brother was really lucky. Together, they headed to the special training room where Xianingyu was going to beat Fan Wang. Expressing support for his friend, Xinghe wished him good luck and advised him to be vigilant in battle to avoid falling in a second. However, the guy could not do this, as he liked to fight long fights. Suddenly, the teacher dealt a powerful blow to the hero's head. Experiencing incredible pain, Wang began to fall because the blow was completely unexpected. In the end, it was the guy's own fault. He relaxed and missed such a simple blow. Fan Wang began to defend himself, asking him not to hit him in the face in order to test his capabilities. Using his agility, strength, and acquired skills, he fought on equal terms with his teacher. But an experienced fighter knew how to stop such simple attacks and dealt with them easily. The guy's self-confidence disappeared when the girl easily overcame him. With one blow, she threw him several tens of meters to the side. The shadow strikes were easily neutralized, and he felt extremely dizzy from the impact. Gathering all his strength, the guy realized that it was time to act, and decided to introduce Xianing with his strong technique. This time he used his battle-tested powerful move. Unfortunately, this strike was too slow, and the teacher managed to get closer to counterattack. The kick caused Fan Wang to fall to the ground in severe pain. The stunned guy saw the warrior's strength in reality, and his proven technique could not resist the teacher. The angry teacher announced that now it was the guy's turn, and he also needed training. The alarmed guy began to shake with fear, begging the girl not to hit him in the face. But she clearly didn't listen and punched Xinghe hard right in the face, knocking him out with one blow. At the end of the training, she intended to develop a lesson plan for the students and provided medicine to heal the wounds. The students' hands were shaking with fear of the upcoming training. The next day began with events early in the morning, not far from a picturesque waterfall. Brother and Chubby decided to cultivate their abilities at the waterfall. However, the hero believed that this training was useless since they were simply standing under a waterfall. It turns out that this training requires concentration, as it is aimed at building a foundation of steadfastness for choosing the right faculty. The teacher explained that a strong foundation is the key to a successful future when choosing a faculty to discover talent. The hero was outraged by this statement, especially if we are talking about the faculty of strength or ancient martial art. However, in the case of the magical or intellectual faculty, fighting face-to-face seemed pointless. Xianning thought the hero's logic was stupid, pointing to Qin Jia, a leader who could combine both faculties. Puffy quickly realized that this was why he was sent to the academy, for his strength. When the time came, the boys were shocked to learn that training had not yet started. The teacher laughed because the students considered the elementary task their training. The training was actually about dodging tree logs falling on them. The frightened guys did not know how to cope with such a test. Everything turned out to be even more difficult. The training included avoiding logs falling from above. The guys felt hopeless, not knowing how to avoid colliding with the logs. Fan Wang trained in ancient martial arts and Xinghe trained in strength, so each had to use their own unique skills. It seemed to the boys that the teacher wanted them to die in this test. However, this was only the first level, and Xianning Yu wished them luck. The hero offered to help his chubby friend, inviting him to take cover behind him. Xinghe realized that this approach was not suitable, as they needed coordinated action, working shoulder to shoulder. This is exactly what the teacher demanded during training. Having accepted his friend's offer, the guy decided to use his skills. With his newly acquired skills, Fan Wang took action. Fortunately, he managed to hold the log, and he asked the puffball to hit the tree. This was not difficult for the chubby one, but, unfortunately, the blow did not destroy the wooden log. Realizing that this was extremely bad, the hero realized that the log was beginning to fall on him from the other side. Thus, the log hit him right on the head, falling from a great height. The hero angrily considered his comrade stupid, since he did not predict in which direction he should strike. Plump excused himself, saying that it was not his fault, and no one warned them about the right direction. The teacher exploded at their quarrel, warning that another log would soon fall. The bird sitting on the tree, watching all the time, did not miss anything. She followed all the events and training of the guys all day. It turned out that Wei Chun, using a bird, was watching the guys and noticed that they were training special techniques. For the villains, this became an excellent opportunity for revenge, and they needed to act to make everything beautiful. While the team of guys started setting up their tents, tired and ready to rest, the caring teacher pulled out restorative ointments so that they could treat their wounds, and by tomorrow they should have healed. The girl also asked them to go to bed early, since they would continue their training tomorrow. While experiencing difficulties, the guys did not foresee that tomorrow it would be even more difficult. Puckliash even suggested that his brother run away from here in order to return to his normal life. However, this plan turned out to be almost impossible, since Xianning Yu had placed many seals on their bodies, and escape seemed extremely difficult. Nevertheless, these trainings were undoubtedly useful in strengthening them and turning them into strong fighters, ready to attract admiring glances. These inspiring words cheered up his friend, and he asked the hero to also use a special cream on him. Events unfolded the next morning, at the top of the mountain. Puffy, shivering from the cold, did not understand why it was so cold, and was surprised by the sudden change in the place for training, sensing something was wrong. The hero, full of determination, proposed to start a battle, and then decided to find out what task they would have to perform. The teacher, looking at the hero, noticed that his fighting spirit was fine. Pulling the lever, the girl shouted that the training was beginning. A lot of stones began to roll straight down the mountain towards the guys, who were taken by surprise. They were surprised, not expecting that huge boulders would fall on them from above. Puffy shouted to the teacher that he still didn't have a girlfriend and he didn't want to die. Worried, Fan Wang shouted at the chubby guy to shy away and not complain. They had successfully dodged one rock, and now they had to continue in the same spirit. Wang insisted on the need for concentration, dodging large rocks and pushing small ones. Another rock had been thrown at them, but now they were ready. The main character easily dodged a stone that almost crushed him. Puckliash gradually got used to the tests and stopped relaxing, showing extreme concentration. The teacher announced to the students that only on the verge of death can a breakthrough be achieved. The seals still wouldn't let them die, but she decided to feed them. When leaving, Xianingyu warned that one should not get too carried away with food and should be careful and respect the rockfall. The guys were glad that they were finally fed and could relax while the teacher rested. Suddenly, the hero noticed something strange, and a thick fog appeared nearby. The guys thought that the teacher had aggravated the training and did not imagine that it could be something more serious than just a complicated regime. But this did not bother the teacher, and when she saw the fog, she realized that the situation was really strange. Suddenly, an arrow flew straight at the girl, trying to hit her like a target. The athletic Xianingyu deftly dodged, but exclaimed that they were under attack. Magic crystals flew straight at her, but she managed to repel their attack. The enemy crept even closer and attacked her directly in the forehead. The main villain was glad that they finally met and tried to make Xianingyu his puppet. Wei Chen announced that he needed to kill Fan Wang and the girl to injure his partner. The worried students realized that something had happened to the teacher as their seals lost their power. The smart guy remembered that Donatia had given him medicine and gave his comrade a strength restoration pill, and the chubby guy didn't want to eat it because of Van's snot. Xinghe realized that maybe they should eat the pill to save their lives. Having gone upstairs, the guys discovered that there was no fog there and decided to look at what was happening in the forest above. They decided not to take the main road, preferring to make their own way up. Puffy was stunned and did not believe that they would have to climb the mountain, assuming that they were simply scared. The hero was decisive and told his comrade that he had eaten the pill for a reason, and they needed to go forward, and Van would support him from behind. Puffy, although trembling, tried to climb the mountain, and gradually he became higher and higher. The hero supported him, realizing that their training had indeed come in handy. Xinghe confirmed that the training was not in vain, since the fog was weaker at the top. Wang noticed progress in his comrade's training. They finally climbed up and there was no fog at the top, so they had to figure out what happened quickly. Things were looking bad as one of the enemies charmed Xianingyu's teacher. The teacher was in danger, so she had to be rescued as soon as possible. Fan Wang was aware of the cunning of these people and understood that if the teacher could not resist them, then even less so would they. The search continued at the bottom of the gorge, and Wei Chun could not understand where they had gone because they could not see through the fog, and they needed to search more carefully. The search continued, and the enemies decided to split up in order to find the guys as quickly as possible. At the same time, the villain continued to charm the teacher, making her his puppet. The attentive hero realized that the abilities of this villain are really dangerous, since he owns magic. Puffy offered to distract the sorcerer, but it was necessary to think about how to proceed. In any case, they had to be as careful as possible so as not to die in this battle. Suddenly the chubby guy exclaimed, so that the losers could see how cool he was. Using the energy, he ran forcefully towards his enemies to overwhelm them with his might. The puppeteer noticed this and sent one of the puppets to subdue the young man. The puppet instantly began firing poisonous darts, but fortunately the puppet was able to dodge. Meanwhile, the hero watched all this and realized that when they control the puppets, they are limited in their movements. The determined guy also began to act, running to his comrade to help. The scoundrel did not like that two children dared to attack him, and at such a moment they dared to disturb him. He immediately sent his puppets to punish the guys and neutralize them. But Fan Wang turned out to be not so simple, and easily got rid of the girls with the help of the Buddha's hand, neutralizing them. Calling his comrade, the guy asked him to act as quickly as possible and strike. Puckliash immediately got down to business. Gathering all his strength into a fist, he became furious and hit the insolent one. Having grabbed the teacher and knocked the villain unconscious, they immediately ran to save the innocent girl. Unfortunately, the scoundrel quickly came to his senses and realized that these guys were a threat to his plans, and for this he decided to put an end to them. Wei Chen heard screams nearby and reacted instantly. The impudent man realized that the enemies were above, and they needed to hurry so as not to miss them. The comrades tried to run away as quickly as possible, but the plump one noticed that the enemies were stepping on their heels. The enemies were furious. Seeing that the guys had no way to escape, they still continued the pursuit. Their situation became more and more hopeless, since there was a cliff ahead, and there was no point in running. The brave chubby guy suggested that his brother take the teacher and leave, promising to detain the enemies. Fanwang did not agree, realizing that his comrade would not be able to delay the enemies by sacrificing his life. At that same moment, Wei Chen approached, calling the guys good boys and asking where they were going to run. Ling Miao even thought about how she could help Fanwan, but he himself was to blame for his bad luck. There was no room left for them to escape, and their enemies advised them to surrender, otherwise they would be deprived of their lives. The concerned hero turned to his sister and asked Donatia to save them as soon as possible. The donation system was no longer the same as Donatia, and no help was provided without money. Feeling very angry, the guy decided to act radically and ordered the plump guy to give all the money and jewelry. Although Xinghe didn't know why Fanwan needed this, he still handed over all the jewelry he had. Wei Chen even thought that these good boys were crazy and were trying to redeem themselves. The total value of the extracted resources was 7.5 million, and the system wanted to know what exactly the hero needed. Smiling, the guy asked if the system had any techniques to make them move quickly on the ground. It turned out that only Sister Donati can do this, but she, too, is not able to do this. Angry, the guy wondered what medications the system could offer to raise his levels, at least temporarily. But, unfortunately, even the money in the hero's account is not enough for such things. The guy couldn't understand how he could survive if the system just watched him die. The arrogant system only exchanges items and advised the use of a flying machine. Realizing that the situation was hopeless, Fanwang asked the system to take them to school. However, the money will only be enough for a short distance if he flies alone. The enemies were getting closer, using their magical abilities to destroy them. Feeling furious, the guy ordered the system to take them to a car near the mountain. There was enough money, and a flying machine was called in, which took the entire team. The villains could not understand what happened when there was an explosion, and nothing was visible through the fog. Even Wei Chun was at a loss as to how they managed to summon the flying machine. Having landed, they ran to the car, and the hero asked the chubby guy to wait and not get into the car. The smart guy discovered the explosives under the car and knew that Wei Chun was well versed in such things. A strange bird flew around them, which the plump one had already seen before. The villain gloated, expecting the heroes to fall for his trick and explode in the car. Suddenly, the bird that had been watching them was destroyed. Puffy noticed that the teacher woke up and threw something at the bird. It turned out that this bird was mechanical and was watching them. The villain immediately realized that a tracking device had been discovered. Contacting the system, our hero asked it to deactivate the explosive device, and the system agreed, but requested a reward. Due to the deadlock in the situation, Fanwang decided to donate his mobile phone. Thus, the system deployed a demoning robot with an excellent price-performance ratio. The alarmed villain tried to detonate the explosive device, but realized that even it did not respond to detonation. Having driven his car a little away from the scene of the incident, the overweight man saw that military equipment was standing nearby. The main character had an idea of how to take revenge on the scoundrel who dared to attempt on their lives. The bomb was planted directly under the car, with the aim of blowing up the criminals. The smart system realized the futility of this attempt given the armored car of the criminals, which could not be blown up. However, the goal was something else, disabling the movement system to gain time and give them an unexpected surprise. The villains were approaching, closely watching the car with desperate guys who were desperately trying to escape from them. Xinghe foresaw that Wei Chun would now go into open confrontation with the scoundrels without unnecessary embellishment and would not hide his true intentions. This seemed highly likely considering that Wei Chin's main goal was to destroy Fanwang. The strong and determined Xianingyu, determined to help the boys survive, sought to take all possible actions to gain the upper hand in this clash. He began to explain that the Xie family ran the Yuanling company and had the support of 88 members of the Guanyin Temple, and in his opinion, if Wei Chen decided to confront Xianing, it would be extremely stupid. Puck Liash energetically added that he would remain with his brother until the very end, ready to provide him with all possible support. The guy, having assessed the situation, realized that if only Wei Chun had fought against them, they would have easily defeated him, but he had more powerful allies in his support. Meanwhile, the villains climbed into the car, ready to go in pursuit. Wei Chen ordered the driver to follow the other car and pursue it relentlessly. Pressing the pedal all the way, the car instantly rushed forward, leaving marks behind itself, polishing the road and gradually increasing speed. However, they were not destined to achieve their goal, as the car successfully exploded and could no longer move. Instantly, the villains realized that the brakes had failed, and the movement system was completely disabled, and now they would not be able to catch up with their enemies. Sometime later, events returned to the school, where Fan Wang and Xing He were leisurely strolling through the corridors. Suddenly, the chubby boy noticed that Director Liu had released a statement announcing his expulsion. For Fan Wang, this did not become a serious problem, since Xianingyu stood up for him and was going to clarify the situation directly with the director. Once in the dormitory, other villains mocked the hero, claiming that it was thanks to them that he would have to leave this school, and now he probably realizes his mistake. But the brave guy, in turn, asked the villains where the money was, which he ordered them to prepare. However, the enemies could not understand what he was talking about, considering Van stupid and naive, because he would soon end, and he still intended to engage in extortion. Without giving up, the guy shouted that now they could hurt each other. Smiling, Wang also asked the chubby guy to take a photo of this scoundrel, because on the evening of the 12th, Wang Wei caught a married girl, and last night Feng Tian did something terrible. No one could believe what they heard, and the enemies were dumbfounded and did not understand how Van could know about this, as if he had clairvoyance. The angry guy shouted for the filming to stop and emphasized that under no circumstances should this information be revealed to anyone, having realized their own mistake. Having repeatedly asked the scoundrels about their willingness to provide money, Van began to expect his benefits. It turned out that they were now ready to go to Principal Liu to apologize for the slander they had said about Fan Wang in front of the entire school. The skillful guy also reminded that his enemies still owe him money. One of the villains began to cry after handing over his last pocket money. Thanks to Xing He for the funds provided, Fan Wang decided to leave him alone and not touch him anymore. Fluffy was amazed by this whole situation, and he did not understand why his brother did not use his abilities to reveal this whole story and create difficulties for the Fan family. It all happened because the Feng family is not very strong and will soon fall apart, because their united influence is not so strong. While leaving school, Vaughn noticed that there were a lot of people here, surrounding him with beautiful girls who were in the school's top 10 beauties. Strangers started shouting that they loved someone. The surprised guy thought that these girls were shouting this in his direction, but the chubby guy asked him not to be stupid and look at the sign. The sign said that everyone present here loved Qin Jie, considering him the best warrior. It turned out to be about a guy who is very popular with girls. Xing He admitted that not only girls, but also guys are crazy about him too. Some guys shouted that Qin Jie is the best, and they want his children. Fluffy still believed that despite Qin Jie's poor family, his talent brought a lot of glory to the school. Fan Wang believed that there was nothing cool about this, because he simply had not met such a hero. Otherwise, he would have been looking for his lost teeth long ago after meeting Wang. In any case, the main character had the opportunity to meet Qin Jie, who received many awards and flowers from numerous fans. Even the chubby guy began to be jealous, because he saw different girls lining up in front of this guy. The hero began to convince his friend, because if he could achieve sufficient strength, then the top 10 beauties in the school would want to date him. Suddenly, Qin Jie came closer and greeted Fan Wang, telling him about the video of his battle that he had seen on the forum. The experienced fighter admitted that it was really impressive and the guy has amazing skills. With a slight sense of awkwardness, the hero noted that this was not the most impressive video yet, and it had the potential to offer even more impressive performances. Jie expressed his best wishes to Wang and added that he was of particular interest to him. Fan Wang, turning to the legend, assured Qin that he should not be offended if someone breaks his records, and in turn, Jie did not feel offended, since these records were set by him back in his school years.